cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife, leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. And white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white.
Sometimes when you're here, I can feel no doubt, 'cause you keep me where the stars are found. It doesn't really matter, 'cause you're here with me now. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, 'cause you're here with me now. It doesn't really matter.
Good evening everyone and welcome to the Red Bull Ring. This is the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup, round 3 of the championship out of 12. And here we are in the Styrian mountains of Spielberg in Austria for what is one of the most iconic tracks in the world and an absolute stamp on the Formula 1 calendar. Welcome tonight to Next Gen Racing. My name is Alex Everett of Crest Autosport, and alongside me tonight it is Mr. Paul Walsh. How are you tonight, Paul?
Doing fantastic, thank you, Alex, and looking forward to another great round of racing here in round number 3 of the series. How about yourself?
Looking forward to it. I've seen MX-5 racing on this track many times before, and it never disappoints. A track, granted, that's quite new to iRacing, and it was very much looked forward to by a lot of the iRacing community. But for these MX-5s, it is a spectacular track, and I promise you tonight, it will be great racing on this track. I mean, so far this season it has been brilliant, but here at Red Bull Ring, we're in for something special, I'm sure.
Oh, most definitely. And this circuit, of course, known for its domination of straights and also sweeping corners here. And the fact that a number of the corners at this circuit can be taken with multiple different lines. And what does that mean? Of course, plenty of overtaking opportunities. Albeit, I think there might be some corners that catch our drivers out, particularly turn number 1 and also turn 8 with sweeping downhill nature. But you can imagine if they get it wrong in Formula 1, well, some of our drivers here may get it wrong today. And there's plenty of prizes up for grabs in terms of points going into the Christmas break.
Absolutely, and speaking of points, let's take a look at the championship standings as we come into tonight's round of the Red Bull Ring, round 3 of the championship. So after rounds 1 and 2 in the Pro category championship, it is Mikey Doble at the top of the standings by quite some margin, 36 points to be exact, in front of BTCC ex-BTCC driver Bobby Thompson in the number 19 car on 131 points. In third place is Lee Holmes. He drops from second to third through the last round, but he is still there and contending for those top spots. Deegan Fairclough with a brilliant round at Knockhill last time out is secure in fourth place there, just 1 point behind third place. Adam Delmont in fifth for XI iRacing, with Jamie Dory, our league host, in sixth position. Pete Newman is in seventh position, and of course we saw him right in the thick of the action last time out at Knockhill. Let's see how he'll get on tonight. With James Clark in 8th, and tied for 9th place, rounding off the top 10, is Nick Clibbans and Ben Bennyworth. Meanwhile, in the Pro-Am category, Paul Walsh, do the honours.
So as the pros currently stand going into round number 3, it's a joint top venture for Lee Horne and Aaron Thompson at the moment, both on 153 points. The Next Gen Racing Orange driver going head-to-head with the Triple B Racing driver, and indeed Sparks will fly once again tonight. Meanwhile, in P3, it's Craig Cockrell from Simtech Racing Gold there, a delta of what is 15 points between himself and the leaders right now. Can he overhaul that tonight at Spielberg? But don't count out the likes of Wayne Douglas and John Burnham, P4 and P5 respectively, Douglas Motorsport and MVR with Scoobs Sim Racing. Both teams there looking to see their drivers move up the field, albeit Burnham there on 120 points has quite the delta to the leaders, but it only takes one string of results to turn that around. Nigel Stock from What Is Stop Racing with Spectre in P6 and 108 points, 6 clear of P7 man Liam Silkstone from XTI iRacing with Swift Coupe on 102 points. Glenn Humberstone from 88 Tech on 82, a best part of 15 points clear of Alex Denning from RDS Simsport in P9, and then rounding off our top 10 in the Pro-Ams, it is Jeff Perkis, the Scoob Sim Racing with MVR driver on 62 points.
And that is the Pro-Am category, very exciting, tied at the top of the championship there. Let's see how they get on tonight. But in the Am category, slightly less dense category in terms of drivers, but still very exciting, as there's only 9 points between Paul Scott and David Whitehouse at the top of the table here, with Liam Tack in third place. Tom Delaney, who won all 3 races in the category respectively at Knockhill last time out, a whopping 108 points for him, sees him jump into action in the category. With drop rounds also to consider, Tom Delaney is certainly one to look out for. With Martin Smith in 5th position, Mark Arrowsmith with his debut to iRacing Leagues, just remember that, at Knockhill last time, 6th position for him, with Simon Robson 7th, Dustin Lamb 8th, and in 9th place is Steve Thompson. So, the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup is well and truly underway, and we have already seen 2 rounds of the championship, one at Silverstone National and won at Knock Hill last time out. A very new track to iRacing, and it saw plenty of action on the small and narrow track that is Knock Hill up in the Scottish Highlands. But now we're in the mountains of Styria for the Red Bull Ring, a slightly wider track and a much faster track with that. And we'll get a nice tour of the track with Paul Walsh a little bit later on. But later on in the season, we have a 2-week break coming after tonight. So in 2 weeks from today, we will resume with round 4 of the championship, which will be over the water in Canada for the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve on the 3rd of January. After that, for round 5, it will be the Daytona Road Course. Of course, we know Daytona Road Course very, very well with the Daytona 24 Hours, which is not long after that particular round, so definitely one to look out for. Bathurst Mount Panorama is going to see us out for the first half of the season for round 6 of the championship. Looking forward to that very much. Another week off in between round 6 and 7, but when we come back for round 7, it will be the Monza GP Circuit. Round 8 will be featured at the Snetterton 300 layout, with round 9 hosted at Zandvoort in the Netherlands. Another week off between rounds 9 and 10, but we come back and we're in Brazil for the Interlagos circuit. And then back for round 11 for the one and only street circuit on the calendar, and it is Long Beach for round 11. And round 12, the final round of the championship, a slightly different format with it being a 2-hour endurance instead of 3 races, and it will be double points on offer at the most difficult track of them all. The mammoth of racing circuits, the Nürburgring, the Nordschleife, will host the final round of the championship on the 14th of March. And we've got a long way to go until then. But until then, we have got the racing to watch tonight. And tonight's racing will consist of battles from drivers across 3 different categories. Pro, as we mentioned, which are highlighted in our standings as black labelled drivers. And there are the Pro-Am category drivers labelled with the background numbers being orange, and Am category drivers are blue labelled drivers, so look out for them. And we have 3 races in store tonight, all to start with qualifying coming up in just a few minutes time, and that will be 15 minutes in length, and it will follow with 2 15-minute sprint races, of which race 1, the grid is formed by the qualifying results, and the grid for race 2 would be formed by a reverse of the top 12 finishers in race 1. And then it will be a full reverse grid for the final race of the night, which is a 25-minute feature race. And we promise you, ladies and gentlemen, if you have been watching the last 2 rounds, it is not a mandatory pit stop. It should be eliminated for tonight. But we'll see. We'll see. It's keeping us on our toes anyway so far in these 2 rounds, and it's made the racing very, very exciting. So that's all to expect from the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup, and we're about to get ourselves into qualifying. So, Paul, you're quite familiar with this crowd now, as are we in the audience, as are myself. Who are you looking out for tonight? Who do you think's going to be the one to shine through?
Well, I would say that in terms of looking at each of the individual classes, looking at Mikey Doble, who has been perhaps the most consistent performer so far within the Pro class, I think he's the one to watch out for in terms of that firm favourite in the Pro class as the world starts to make their way out of the pits and onto the circuit. But do not count out some of his other contemporaries, and indeed drivers such as Sam Smith, who took the fastest lap in the final practice session there and then on what was a high 48. Can we imagine the Simtech Racing red driver tonight perhaps causing a bit of an upset for a number of the established pros? And then meanwhile in the Pro-Am class, well, I think it's a bit more difficult to call within the Pro-Am class. We've seen plenty of very strong performances. Lee Horne, of course, NXTGEN Racing orange driver there, a very strong driver, an all-rounder, and we look forward to seeing what he's able to do. But I think one of the drivers to watch out for within the Pro-Am class in particular tonight will be the driver of Aaron Thompson, who we did see a number of times at Knock Hill show a great amount of promise, and whilst it didn't always work out for Thompson, he put in some very strong performances all round. I think it's the case he just needs that opportunity to shine and get some of those inconsistencies out the way, and he's definitely going to be on course for some huge points. Meanwhile, in the AM class, I think one driver to watch out for, and he was the fastest in the final practice section, and it is the livery that many of you will, of course, see bring a smile to your faces. It is the duck-based livery of David Whitehouse, as we see him making his way down through turn at number 4 right now, with the wonderful little duck on the side, of course. Well, he does love a good laugh, David Whitehouse. Indeed, the Seesaw Digital Racing with G&D wildcard racing driver. He was quite fast. It's not always worked out for him in the opening 2 rounds, however. I think do watch out for him. He is going to be fast here, and would he be able to pull off a sensational set of results? There's only 9 drivers in the AM class, but to be fair, the competition in the AM class, despite there being a limited number of drivers, is not to be underestimated. So those would be my recommendations to watch out for, but I think anybody here can take a great result home, and the simple reason for that is this circuit is very different from our opening 2 circuits. Silverstone National was quite a limited circuit, but it was all about carrying speed through sweepers and also the ability to maintain some speed coming out of certain corners onto the straights. But as we're going to ride on board with Mikey Doble right now and take you around a lap, this circuit is all about carrying the speed onto these straights. So as he comes across that timeline to go into turn number 1 here, it'll be about getting its sighting point there for the braking zone for 1, breaking that 100 metre board here and coming down 2 gears, coming into 3rd gear before powering out of the corner and riding there on the sausage curb on the exit to stabilise the car before going up the gears. And you'll know he's tucked in behind multiple drivers in the charge up the hill towards turn number 2, and that is because he wants to use the slipstream here. It's all about that straight line speed as he gets ready for that extended braking zone for turn 2, braking just off that 150 metre board, in fact the 100 metre board here in these cars, and going all the way down through the gears and attacking that turn 2 hairpin, that right angled hairpin, as hard as possible before stamping back on the throttle and charging his way down towards turn 3. Again, similar practice as before, stay tucked in behind another car and build up as much speed as possible as the driver in front punches a hole in the air for you, and now gets ready to break into the downhill braking zone, braking a little bit earlier than perhaps you would on flat ground here. The reason being, of course, downhill, and as he makes his way nice and tight there through turn number 3, we can see how he falls the steering wheel as hard over to the right as possible before emerging out the apex and getting the throttle. Now for the long right hander of 4 flat out before coming into the braking zone for 5, breaking that 50 metre board, trail braking in here while the downhill left hand sweepers, and as he makes his way through turn 5, it's now a case of getting in the throttle and staying within those track limits. Coming into 6, another downhill left hander, but this time a much more casual corner in terms of the fact you can get on the throttle much more aggressively and use the apex of turn 7 to your advantage. That helps him settle the car and now charge up the hill in the drop down towards turn number 8. 2 corners to go here, 2 very tricky right handers. The first one braking at the 50 metre board as he makes his way in, keeping the car drifting loose on the rear end there and going a little bit wide off the track limits, but he's kept it in enough to be registered as a lap. Now making his way through the final corner here, which is all about attacking the apex curve and heading across that timeline. Mikey Doble there with a very, very smooth lap to start off with. I think that's going to be a strong banker. What's it going to be in the end as he crosses that timeline? Well, it's provisional pole at a 49.43. But as I was saying at the start, this lap, and particularly this circuit, is a challenge about maintaining that straight line speed. You want to be on the throttle as soon as possible when you clear these corners, because if you're not, if you lose out 1 to 2 miles an hour on each straight, that's going to be costing you multiple tenths a lap. But over back to you, Alex.
Well, I was admiring Mikey Doble's lap there, and I could particularly see the sheer speed he carried into the apex of this turn of the hairpin of turn 3, I believe it is. But Mikey Doble, a superb lap to open things up here. Quite some way clear, and quite a notable figure in 3rd place we got here. Adam Morgan, yes, the Adam Morgan from BTCC. So more drivers from the Pro Championship. As you can see, it's a slightly replicate livery of the car God-sponsored Sicily Motorsport BMW. But of course, this is a Mazda. Adam Morgan, welcome to the championship. As we saw last week, we had Daniel Rowbottom in the Mazda MX-5, and we also have Bobby Thompson gracing us with his superb battling through the field last time out at Knockhill. But let's see what we can expect from Adam Morgan tonight. Quite a good opening lap from him. 3rd place on the standings right now, but some way behind. That's 5 tenths behind. Oh no, that's interval, sorry. So that's over a tenth behind Mikey Doble at the moment. But on a track like this, that's actually quite a long track for these MX-5s. It's a near 2-minute lap. It's quite a long time on the throttle for these drivers. So as you mentioned on the lap on board with Mikey Doble, slipstreaming really is key here. You can see all the cars gaggled together on track right now.
Oh, indeed, and Mikey Doble just raising the bar with that provisional pole lap to a 49.12. Now that is a delta which is going to be hard to close down. And the reason I say that is because that's a sign that he's not just nailed the lap in terms of finding the slipstream out on circuit, but he's also nailed the lap in terms of getting every apex spot on. I do wonder if we are going to see a high 48 come the end of this qualifying session. All predictions would say we will see one, because that's what Sam Smith was able to achieve right at the end of the practice session. It was a 48.8. Will it occur here? as we see David Whitehouse there taking a bit of a rally cross line across the second corner as he makes his way. And of course, you may hear, and indeed some of you may be screaming at your monitors right now, why are we referring to the second right-hander there as turn 2 or sometimes turn 3? Well, there's a little bit of a debate as to which corner number that is. Is that turn 2 or is it turn 3 because of the left-hand kink before it? And indeed, a number of you armchair commentators there may be saying we're getting it wrong, which is completely understandable.
Yeah, well, each to their own with this track, I'm finding. That's certainly the case. But keeping an eye on qualifying here, Mikey Doble with a very impressive time, as you mentioned, 3/10 clear of Keith Dempsey at the moment. And the thing is with Mikey Doble, his main rival, for the moment anyway, his main rival, Bobby Thompson, is not here today. Unfortunately, he's got other matters to attend to. But Mikey Doble, this could be an easier meeting for him. It's been brilliant so far for Mikey Doble, and across the 2 rounds so far, I have alluded to other championships we've had with NXTGEN, where it's taken Mikey Doble actually a little bit of time to warm up, to rack up the race wins. I mean, it took him about 6 rounds in last season's Legends Cup, and he went on and won the championship. But we've seen Mikey Doble really come out the door fighting real early on in this championship, haven't we, Paul?
Oh, indeed we have it. It's been a different time for Mikey Doble compared to in the Legends, where, as you say, he seemed to just gradually build up that momentum as he went over the course of the season. But we're seeing a different type of Doble here, where he's been quite aggressive from the start, trying to go for those best possible results. And as a result now, it's put him on a very strong footing. But I think one driver to watch out for, talking about drivers who are making great impressions from the start of the season. We talked about him briefly earlier on when we were going through the championship standings. Mark Arrowsmith, the AM driver, who, to be fair, on his debut at Knock Hill, it was almost as if he'd been racing for months, if not years, the way he approached it. The maturity he showed, literally on his debut, was phenomenal. I wonder whether the Maverick will be pulling off another sensational set of results today.
It's certainly possible, as we mentioned last week, if you didn't watch last week's broadcast, Mark Arrowsmith had only purchased iRacing days before last week's round at Knock Hill. It's decided to give iRacing a go. Welcome to the world. It's a never-ending world of spending. Brilliant racing. But Mark Arrowsmith, brilliant opening meeting last time out. And I'm sure it's going to continue on into this week. And no time on the board just yet for Mark Arrowsmith, but we'll see how he gets on later on in the session. Speaking of no times on the board yet, only 21 drivers have put in a clean lap so far, and we are nearing the 66.6% mark of qualifying. So we were talking about this before the broadcast, Paul. Track limits are proving quite tricky on this track. There's definitely coming out of turn 1. We saw Mikey Doble go slightly wide coming out of turn 8 or 9, whichever it is. It's really going to be a big thing on this track today.
Oh, most definitely. And the challenge with this circuit is, with regards to track limits, you can, to an extent, use the curbs of runoff areas. But the problem is, you as a driver, when you're in that seat, of course, you want the best possible lap times. We do see that. I think that was Lee Holmes going very wide. And in fact, he's got to park it up as a result there, as that's an aborted lap. But as soon as you start to try and push those limits, of course, you get carried away as a driver. And there's this thing when you're driving, whether it be on a normal road, in your everyday routine, alternatively out on the racetrack, knowing the limits of the car and knowing the limits of the speeds you can carry. And that's what will catch our drivers out. But of course, in qualifying, it's all about that single lap. So it wouldn't be surprised if we are going to see some drivers set lap times right at the end of this session, because they're going to try and explore how far they can push the limits, how far they can be within the limits, and then they'll find that middle ground to be able to achieve that perfect lap. And that's why right now we've yet to see a 48, but Mikey Doble is creeping closer to those 48s. We're 49.0. But meanwhile, one person's noted, we've let slip under the radar a little bit, Paul Scott right now, who's got a sizable advantage in the qualifying for the AMS versus David Whitehouse there. That advantage being in the region of what is, correct me if I'm wrong here, 3.5 tenths, and that is quite an advantage to have to cut down for Whitehouse. And it's a similar situation away for Wayne Douglas, our current provisional pole sitter in the Pro-Ams, who's practically 3 tenths faster than Callum Jenkins here. And it's about, as a driver, when do you go for that push? When do you decide, right, I'm going to throw all my chips in and gamble pushing the car to limits? And that's what Doble did early on when we rode on board, even for that, what was his opening banker lap, if you will. That was right on the limit, but he found even more time in, and that is the challenge of those track limits, because you can see our drivers are typically required to keep 2 wheels within the white lines, but some of these curves can be exploited. You can run a little bit wider on these curves, but not every single one of them. Of course, our drivers will be aware of those limits. They will study them going into the round, or at least most of them will have, if not all of them, and it will be the case now. They've got to remember where they can push the car a bit more and where they do not push the car as much. And turns 8 and 9, which we're seeing Paul Scott come down through now, are perhaps the 2 trickiest corners here for track limits, for the simple reason that you want to be as aggressive as possible for the corners and carry as much speed, particularly in the downhill right-hander of turn 8, the opening corner of that sequence, but carry too much speed and the car is going to slide wide, and when it goes, you're not going to catch it in time because it's a downhill off-camber corner. As we see Aaron Thompson trying to follow what is Scott there around, but you can see Scott getting it wrong, and as a result now Aaron Thompson, well, he's got a brilliant toe magnet there in terms of the slipstream off of Scott, but do remember now Scott is on a compromised lap here, and I think he's affording slipstream to Aaron Thompson instead.
Aaron Thompson tied top of the championship in the Pro-Am category, looking to get a good race meeting in here again, and his championship rival for the moment anyway, Lee Horne, down in 7th in category, 20th overall. So there's a lot of drivers who are top of the pile, let's say, in terms of championship and performances this season. In particular, Deegan Fairclough, who did very, very well at Knock Hill, was actually a nominee for our driver of the day, a little bit of an informal award of ours. But 9th at the moment for Deegan, which compared to Knock Hill is quite the difference. So there's a few drivers here struggling today. It's a completely different characteristic of track. So we see Deegan coming out of the pits. He'll have limited time to complete this lap. He should be able to complete this lap and start one fresh lap where he has one more chance, as this is a near 2-minute lap. So an out lap effectively is 2 minutes, and now we're under 2 minutes from the end of the session. So some of the drivers will be on their final lap to try and get themselves to the top of the table. At the moment it is Mikey Doble at the top, and he's in the pits. He seems very, very comfortable with what he's done. Beat that, guys. Try that. It's, to be honest, I fancy him for this pole position at the moment. 3/10 clear, as a lot of drivers are putting themselves to the top of the standings. Ollie Peters puts himself into 5th place, and a big draft ahead of him from David Whitehouse. And I think that's Lee Horne and Jamie Dory ahead of him as well. So a big hole in the air for Ollie Peters, and it's helped him get into 5th place. So not too far away from 2nd place. If he can get himself a decent lap here, he might even try to get himself up to 2nd. A brilliant, brilliant lap there from Peters.
Oh, definitely. And now I think, well, Peter's dropping back a little bit here. And I think if so long as he qualifies towards the front here, he wants to be on those front 3 rows. And I think what the big change we're going to see in the race is how things settle down after the opening lap. I'm expecting drivers to form into packs, and really a lot of drivers will try, I think, to avoid fighting one another, because they will want to balance out when do they push and when do they try and stay on the toe and use the slipstream in order to gain positions. It's going to be quite a tactical set of sprint races around here, because as soon as you lose the toe of the drivers in front of you, it becomes a lot harder to catch up. We're not expecting bump drafting here like you would in perhaps a bit of a NASCAR event when there's a little taps on the back, although we did see a little bit of bump drafting, I dare say, at Silverstone National. But I think this is going to be one of those ones where it's going to be a lot of backdoor tactics, and despite what we see in qualifying here as we're coming to the end, it may be the case that come the end of races 1 and 2, our grid is going to be completely shaken up, and it may not be the order that you would expect. I mean, Mikey Doble right now could take pole position in the pros, but we may see him drop a couple of positions depending on how the slipstream wars play out at the Red Bull Ring.
Absolutely, and we're seeing drivers approaching the end of the session here. Lee Horne seems to be on a decent lap here. He's determined to complete this lap, and he has been towing along his teammate Jamie Dory. So let's see how Lee Horne and Jamie Dory get on here as they cross the line. Lee Horne finishes his final lap, as does Jamie Dory. Jamie Dory stays in 21st and Lee Horne stays in 8th place, so not a good section for Jamie Dory in the pro category. He's the lowest of the pro category drivers, in fact 12th overall of them, 12th in category, sorry, and 21st overall. So not quite the session he definitely intended for, but there's a lot of other drivers still out on track. We've got Adam Delmont, who is going to be the most recent driver to cross the line here. The 37 car will cross the line. Let's see if he can get higher than 9th. Across the line he goes. I don't think that's an improvement. It is not. He pulls over to finish his lap, and we've also got the 17 car crossing the line of Simon Robson. I believe he's just put himself into 16th place. Few other drivers yet to come through still. We've got Callum Jenkins, who took his debut last time out at Knock Hill. few other drivers, including Deegan Fairclough. We saw him do very well at Knockhill. Has he got one lap in the banker? Like we saw earlier on, he came out of the pits and has one stab at a better lap time. We'll see how he gets on. But first of all, this is Callum Jenkins.
He's gone wide, however. Surely that's going to be a track limits warning on that one. An invalidated lap as he comes on through. And Fairclough almost doing the same. I think he just about kept it in the limits there as he crosses the line. And what's it going to be for Fairclough and iRacing? He comes across. He improves to P8. That's a great improvement. What about Aerosmith here? He's P22 overall currently. He does not improve at the end. So Fairclough leaving it until last and getting the job done to move himself up. What about Mark Oliver here as he crosses the line, the 88 Tech driver, as he comes on across? What will it be? He's currently quite way down the order, and as he comes across, he does not improve. So a number of drivers dropping the ball, it would seem, in qualifying.
Absolutely, and 4 drivers in fact did not set a lap. Whether that's invalidated or they've opted to start at the back, open to interpretation there. But quite a tricky qualifying session indeed for the drivers. A lot less laps than what they would have had at Knockhill and Silverstone National. So a completely different theme of qualifying here today. But to top them all, it is Mikey Doble, our championship leader. Carries on as he means to go on. First place for him, and pole on the grid. Fantastic session for him. And Sam Smith with a lap in the dying moments of qualifying, just 2 thousandths ahead of third place now, Lee Holmes, who is third in the championship as well. So a good strong session for Lee indeed. And first of the Pro-Am category drivers is Lee Horne, down in 9th place overall. And first of the Am category drivers is Paul Scott. So we will go through the grid, ready for this first race of the night. And as we mentioned, it is Mikey Doble. He is first on the grid, and there's a slight problem with our overlay here, but we'll ignore it. Mikey Doble on pole with Sam Smith in second, Lee Holmes third, from Craig Cockrell in fourth. Keith Dempsey takes 5th place, just ahead of Ollie Peters. Adam Morgan, his debut tonight, in 7th, with Deegan Fairclough in 8th. Lee Horne will take the next position of 9th, with 10th going to Adam Delmont. Wayne Douglas is 11th, with Callum Jenkins in 12th. Paul Scott, first of the Am category drivers, in 13th. Aaron Thompson, tied championship leader for Pro-Am, in 14th. David Whitehouse in 15th, with Simon Robson in 16th, Glenn Humberston in 17th, Ben Bennyworth in 18th, with Nick Clibbens in 19th, George Watson 20th, with Jamie Dury in 21st, Mark Arrowsmith takes 22nd, with Mark Oliver in 23rd, Liam Silkstone in 24th, and Tom Delaney with a good round at Knockhill, he's in 25th, with Martin Smith in 26th, Steve Thompson 27th, Nigel Stock 28th, Dustin Lamb 29th, 30th Lewis Kent, and James Clark 31st. But we're about to go here for the first race of the night. This is the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup Round 3 at the Red Bull Ring. I'm Alex Everett, and it's Paul Walsh alongside me, and we are providing you the entertainment for this opening race of the night. So, who's your money on, Paul?
I think to take this one from start to finish, we can get a good start. It'll be Mikey Doble who is the favourite, but watch out for Smith alongside him on that front row. And another driver to watch out for further back, David Whitehouse, starting from what is the 8th row. Do not count the Am driver out. I think he's going to come hunting after Scott very rapidly indeed. And meanwhile in the Pro-Ams, I think Lee Horne's got a good amount of space between himself and his pursuers. But again, Douglas and Jenkins, they're both starting on the 6th row. They'll look to gain places nice and early, as we're only seconds away before the lights go down. And indeed we'll be getting race number 1 of 3 underway as the gridding procedure is complete. And as we can see the lights here, it is 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights, and it's lights out and ho 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 as our drivers take away to race number 1 at the Red Bull Ring. And we can see Doble getting a good start and Smith having to go very defensive early on as Holmes managed to get the jump on him. But a little bit further back, we look as though we've got the renowned Mazda going up the inside. That's Dempsey looking for a double move here into turn 1. He's going to get it as he's got a brilliant start as the Team BC driver. As further down the order, Douglas is already up into P10 lead in the Pro-Am class as all the MX-5s come charging up the hill now towards turn number 2, and immediately you can see how some drivers getting the better start compared to others have gained massively for it as they all come crashing down into turn number 2 right now, crashing down the brakes I should say. And we see Ollie Peters there looking to try and get the place there in a free wide situation, but he's on the wide line as oh goodness me, we've got contact and Deegan Fairclough involved there, and a number of cars being picked up by Fairclough's wayward car, which I think was tapped by one of the machines. I'm not sure if it's Lee Holmes in the 88 Tech machine, but we've had some instance, and even further instance further back there as Martin Smith's clear of the incident, but I think that may have been, well, I think Wayne Douglas has had a moment as well as all of our drivers carry on and they come down towards turn number 3 and under braking. We can see David Whitehouse there gaining some places as well. He's up into P10 is the AM driver, and Whitehouse really making that early charge. As we can see, the midfield now really scrambling for position here. Nobody willing to get into a line here in the battle for P10 downwards. And as they make their way on down through turn number 5 now, it is the case of coming through the left-hander and through 6, in fact. All of our drivers really starting to press on, as meanwhile Mikey Doble holding on to that lead as he makes his way now through turn 7 and up towards 8 and 9 and making that break early. It's critical to make that break. As good as we've got a car up there, and meanwhile Lewis Kent, the BT Motorsport Machinist, we've got even more incidents occurring now. I think that's Paul Scott involved in an incident with Glenn Humberstone, as Humberstone just literally creeping on now with a broken bumper. But after one lap full of frantic overtakes and action as they come out the final corner, it is Mikey Doble leading right now, as we can see Dempsey versus Smith here, and Dempsey really wants that second place early on as they come across the line. Dempsey's got his nose ahead by a small inch, and as they make their way up towards turn number 1 right now, we can see it's the case that Smith has got back ahead. He's got the better pull out of the corner. As meanwhile further down, it looks like, whoa, there's that Dustin Lamb who's going wrong. That's not Dustin Lamb, that's somebody further down. That's Robson, who's had it go horrifically wrong. And meanwhile up in the lead, we've still got that battle for what is P2 going on. And my goodness, if Dempsey's going to try and hold this all the way through and then go around the outside into 2, well, it's definitely the case right now. He's given Doble the ability to break away cleanly, but in return Smith is not being able to relax here as they come up into the braking zone for 2, and he's going to try and go all the way around the outside. He's going to force what is a very tight line to be even tighter for Smith, and he gets the move done. Well, my goodness, Alex, one absolutely hectic opening lap and a half.
For 2 minutes of intense action there. A lot of incidents that we'll try and catch up on a little bit later on. But Mikey Doble at the top. And there's a lot of big movers in the field at the moment. Aaron Thompson is up right near his championship rival Lee Horne. Second in category right behind Lee Horne here. And he's up 6 places so far is Aaron Thompson. Nick Clibbins is up 8 places. 9 places gained for Jamie Dury. 10 places gained for Nigel Stock, Dustin Lamb and Lewis Kent at the moment. And Lewis Kent did have an incident earlier on in this lap as well, so quite a lot going on for the drivers at the lower end of the field here. A lot of casualties early on, including Wayne Douglas and George Watson. Deegan Fairclough was involved in an incident coming out of turn 2 or 3, open for debate. But yeah, plenty of racing still to go tonight, so do not give up is always the message to these drivers whenever they're involved in one incident or another. Battle here between Adam Delmont and Craig Cockrell. Cockrell is forced out onto the wide line, and Adam Morgan sneaks it to the inside, forces his way through into 5th place, and Cockrell did not see that coming, and it was a brilliant move from Adam Morgan to push himself back into the top 5 here.
Oh, indeed, a very smart move from Adam Morgan. He's playing the game, let the drivers in front do the fighting for you and create the space for you to work, because you can see now as he makes his way through the right-hander, Lee Horne trying to go around the outside of Cockrell here, and Cockrell all out of shape. And as a result, as Aaron Thompson now looks to gain what is 2 places for the price of 1 as they come charging up the hill towards turn number 2. Well, if anybody told him the pre-Christmas sales were over, Thompson's not listening, because he's going for that 2-for-1 special. Now, can he hold on here as the prime driver really getting his elbows out here versus Horne? And as they go into the braking zone, I don't think he's been able to shut the door, but Lee Horne having to try and hold on to position versus Cockrell here. And of course for Lee Horne right now, this is a difficult situation, as meanwhile further down Aerosmith here, who's gained massively. He's up into P2 in the AM class, and as they make their way out the corner right now in a bit of a drag race as they come charging down towards turn number 4, and he is ahead right now as they come rolling down the hill here, and he's going after David Whitehouse, who was the best part of what is 3.5 seconds up the road from him as they make their way all the way down the hill here. The number 35 car, Lee Holmes, getting back ahead, and Aerosmith being smart, not fighting with the pro driver, instead just giving him the opportunity to pull him along. But meanwhile Cockrell here looking for the return move once again. Lee Horne, and Horne I think deciding, you know what, enough's enough, I'm not going to fight with the pro because there's no need. Instead I'll let the pro pull me up to Aaron Thompson, who right now, much like Mikey Doble at the start of this race, has been given a bit of a breather here, and that could be invaluable going later into this race. We're only a third of the way in already, but you can see that Mikey Doble on that time screen 1.1 seconds clear, but is now being reeled in by Dempsey, and I think that's what a lot of our drivers are now starting to do. They're starting to put aside that sort of red mist. Well, I say that, and then it looks like Mark Aerosmith's had a moment and a half there coming out to turn at number 6. Hope everything's alright. We just lost the rear end by the looks of things, isn't that, Alex?
Yeah, it just seems he's lost the rear end coming out of the corner there, and once you lose the rear end quite intensely on these cars, that's it. It's very difficult to bring it back into shape, and that's all that's might happen to Mark Aerosmith there. He's down in 21st now, and he's got some way to go to try and catch that back up, but a sad period of the race for him drops him down the order. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Nick Clibbens, one of the biggest gainers of the field, is up 12 places to 7th place. He's got quite a gap ahead of him to catch up with the likes of Adam Morgan and Aaron Thompson. Adam Morgan here having a good debut to the championship, battling with Aaron Thompson here, who's really having a good race so far. He's broken away from his rivals. In fact, Lee Horne, something has happened to him as he's down here in 20th place. He's off the track, stuck on the inside here, so we'll take a replay. There was something involving him and Craig Cockrell. Here we go. This is going into the final section of the track. Oh, Nick Clibbens and Lee Horne come together, and that he did get subsequently collected by another car there, did Lee Horne, and it dropped him down the order, and it just seems the damage on the car is what's caused him to stick to the side.
He's got a broken front suspension.
Yes.
It's the Furzen racing machine that clipped in there, broken the whole front right axle.
It's such a shame, and that is a retirement for Lee Horne and a damper to his championship already, but there are other races in the night that he can try and capitalise on the loss of points and time. Meanwhile, we have got the battle for the top spot here. Keith Dempsey has reeled in Mikey Doble here in the last 2 laps or so, and he is taking Sam Smith with him, and it could be a big battle here at the top of the table as we switch over to Lewis Kent trying to chase down second placing category ahead of him, which is Mark Oliver. Let's get back with that top 3 battle here. Mikey Doble goes through the final corner to finish another lap here, and making his way towards the halfway point of the race, and he has got quite a lot of battling to do, it seems, to keep that top spot as we head into turn 1. Keith Dempsey looks to the inside, but he's doing that probably to try and see his braking and turning points. As we head up the hill, it's a good run actually from the 2 cars behind Mikey Doble. The 199 car of Keith Dempsey moves out of the slipstream and to try and make his way alongside Mikey Doble, which he does. Sam Smith is opting to stick behind Mikey Doble, pushing him up the hill now. Keith has got his nose in front. Into the hairpin we go. Mikey Doble's got the better line, but a good exit from this corner will be good for Keith Dempsey as he puts it onto the outside curb. It does look like a good run, but he'll still be isolated on the outside as we run down into the next corner. Another right-hander for these cars, which means Mikey Doble's on the inside line, the preferable line, but Keith Dempsey has been able to hang it around the outside and keep it there so far. He decides not to. He undercuts through turn 4 here.
Oh, indeed. No, I think Smith and Delmont now will both fancy their opportunities here, because with Doble and Dempsey making every corner too wide on this lap, it means that right now, I mean, Delmont at the start of this lap was 1.3 seconds back. He's now within 3/10. That's how much time they're taking out one another, battling side by side. I mean, it's great, of course, for us watching, of course, the viewers here, but I think Doble right now needs to be at 2 minds because they keep fighting like this. Aaron Thompson is currently 2.2 seconds back. He's a prime driver, but can you imagine if Thompson was able to get involved in this and he just finds himself bringing himself into the fight? But already we can see that Delmont trying to look at an opportunity here to go for P3, going into turn number 8, and as he looks the inside here, does Delmont versus Smith. Smith's not going to battle it too hard here, and Delmont's going to be given the space on the inside. Smith is going to try and hang around in the end. Delmont backs out. The Excite iRacing blue driver here knows what's at stake. There's an opportunity to win here. He doesn't want to fight this too hard because they only went side by side through turn 8. You can see the gap that's already opened up. It's a gap of 4 tenths from one corner. You can imagine if they applied that over half the lap, how much the leaders would break away as they go into another lap here, and Dempsey continues to put that pressure on, but being smart, well, he deploys the pressure. He's not doing it over every corner. He's doing it on the opening half of the lap where there's the better opportunities. But as we ride on board with Sam Smith here, of course, Smith will be at 2 minds as well as Dempsey pulls out once again here, and Smith now needs to pick where he places himself. I think he's going to this time try and stay to the outside here and get the better run alongside Dempsey. Dempsey's ahead again by a nose as they make their way through turn number 2, but as they exit the corner, Doble just mastering that exit out of the right-hander, and as they come roaring down the hill right now, whilst Dempsey's ahead right now as they make their way into that braking zone for turn 3. I think it's going to be a repeat of the last lap.
It could be, unless Keith Dempsey tries something a little bit different here. He surrendered in the last lap, but he seems to be trying to stay side by side, but no, he has to get an undercut, and Sam Smith looking to the inside of Keith there. He had to cover his tracks, but Keith has a good run coming out of the corner. Will he try to go left to the inside for this next corner here? No, he doesn't. He looks to the outside. What he's trying to do is he's trying to line up a late apex, is Keith Dempsey, trying to get himself a good run out of the corner so he can find his way to the inside of Mikey Doble, who is defending brilliantly, it's got to be said at the moment. Sergio Perez-esque kind of driving right now from Mikey Doble. And he's, you mentioned a moment ago, in fact a lap ago, you mentioned that this is drawing in other cars. That might be what Mikey Doble wants. He might be wanting to draw in the other cars so they can start squabbling over each other and he can try and break away. That might be the master plan from Mikey Doble here. But if he's not too careful, he could end up being in that battle himself and the one dropping off. As Keith Dempsey gets a good run coming out the final corner. He finds the inside. He's only got his front quarter panel alongside, but a late break here from Keith Dempsey might give him first place. Let's see if Mikey Doble can hang it around the outside. No, he backs off. Sam Smith is late on the brakes, and he finds the inside of Mikey Doble. He has to power his way through turn one. Up the hill we'll go now towards the hairpin. Keith Dempsey has the lead for the first time tonight, respectively on the straight here. And here we go up the hill. Mikey Doble has got to follow the slipstream, find a way around. He's going to look to the outside as Dempsey covers the inside, but he swaps to the inside. Doble's late on the brakes and there could be contact. It's 3 wide, almost going into the hairpin, and there's a big move from Mikey Doble, and his side-by-side still coming out of the corner.
And now it's all about who pushes who down the straight here down towards turn 4. You can see it's the case. Well, Dempsey's got Smith behind him, but he's pulled back over, in fact. And meanwhile, Delmont almost trying to get in the action here as they're going to go 3 wide down into the braking zone. But it's the case, Dempsey's ahead right now, and it's the 3 behind who've got to decide where they want to place themselves. And Smith being brave as there's contact there going out of turn number 4 with Doble, and it's lifted the car up. And Smith, fortunate enough there not to be knocked off. There's even further contact with Thompson and also Morgan. They're both trying to get in the mix in. It's turned into a 6-way battle for the overall lead, albeit you've got a pro-am sandwiched in amongst all these pros here battling for position, and I think Thompson right now is just enjoying this thought of racing with them as they come charging through turn number 6 here, and as they make the way into the right-hander. It does look as though that right now Dempsey's back in control of this, and Will Smith losing out there through one little bit of contact, and meanwhile Doble just ahead of Delmont, and Delmont now trying to look for an opportunity as Doble comes back at Dempsey into turn number 8. He wants to be the lead car in this train. He's not necessarily going to be able to break away, but Doble I think enjoys being the leader and is trying to show signs of breaking back on through, but he couldn't quite get it there into 8. And as he comes through 9, you can see everybody now starting to use a little bit more of the width of the circuit. Everybody trying to abuse those track limits just to give them a bit of a pull out to the final corner in the run up towards turn 1. And Doble ready on the charge here as it looks though Dempsey swings the inside, but Doble covers it off, and as they make the way into turn 1, he's got out the inside. You can see the Excite racing machine there. Delmont trying to come through as Aaron Thompson decides, you know, I'm going to power through this, and Aaron Thompson now is going to try and come on through. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Thompson is a pro-am driver. He's not battling with these guys for points. He's just battling for the overall lead. And as they make the way out the hill here, we can see Dempsey trying to rally cross his way to the inside into the braking zone. They're going to go 3 wide with 2 behind. And as they make the way on in here, Dempsey taking a tight line. Thompson trying to go round, and Thompson they're bouncing off of the sausage curve on the exit. My goodness! And now they're 3 wide once again in the run down towards turn number 4. Turn number 3. And it looks as though that right now everybody coming down. But Aaron Thompson is your leader for the time being.
Oh, that was incredible from Aaron Thompson. He's just made his way to the front here. 13 places gained. He's now got Dempsey on his inside. Good run out of the corner here from Thompson. That could keep his position here. They're all pushing each other along. Mikey Doble's in a bit of isolation here. He's on the outside of Delmont, and he's got to push along Keith Dempsey at the moment. Here we go into the left-hander here. Doble backs off, and that puts Delmont through into 3rd place. Dempsey is on the outside of Thompson. Thompson is having a brilliant race here. He covers off Dempsey. Into the left-hander we go. Doble is isolated out there. He can't seem to get near the front now. Actually, he's had a good run as Adam Morgan and Sam Smith come together a little bit, but they still keep going. This will be the penultimate lap. Completion of this lap, and we'll see the white flag. Thompson on the outside. Dempsey on the inside. Oh, and there's contact! Thompson spun it round, and Dempsey's followed him off onto the apron on the outside here. And I think Dempsey sort of thought that was my fault, and he decided to stay behind. And that drops Thompson off out of the top 4, but the battle will rage on at the front here as we start the final lap here at the Red Bull Ring. Up into turn 1 we go. Doble certainly is in a bit of a clear here. He has got Delmont behind him, who will try and get a good run out of turn 1 here, and it did look like a pretty good run out of turn 1 then. Let's get on board with Delmont. Look at this run on the back of Doble here. He'll pull to the left, as that's the only route he can go. He's still got momentum as he gets alongside and gets his nose ahead of Mikey Doble. Up the hill we go into the hairpin. Doble has the inside, probably the better line, and he's been riding this line very well throughout the night so far. Through we go. Delmont takes a little bit of extra track on the outside there to try and get a good run. But we got Sam Smith pushing along Mikey Doble as we head down the hill. He's now going to look the opposite side to try and take to the outside of Adam Delmont. We now have a 3-wide situation heading into this corner here. Doble on the inside, Delmont in the middle, and it nearly comes close together between Doble and Delmont, and there is contact. Smith's on his side and he runs off the track, and now losing contention with this top 3 spot. But the red battle will rage on even still, but Doble seems to be in the clear here. But Adam Morgan just capitalises on that. Into second place he goes, past Delmont. And it seems to be a clear road now for Mikey Doble as the two of Adam Delmont and Smith came together in the final moments here. Doble will go on to win this race, presumably, but in dramatic circumstances in that race, that was quite something to watch so far. Not over yet, a few more corners to go. Doble has got to get himself there, but a good debut for Adam Morgan as well. Second place on his first race of the night. Here we go through the final 2 corners. Doble, oh look at that, Adam Delmont going very wide there in the background there, but that won't harm him too much. Maybe a slow down to surf, but Mikey Doble will come across the line here to win the opening race of the night. Another win for Mikey Doble under his belt. Adam Morgan on his debut takes second, and another Adam, but it's Adam Delmont takes third for Excite Racing. He took a win in Knock Hill, but he takes a P3 here in race 1 of the night. Thompson will take the win in the Pro-Am category after having a brilliant battle towards the end there with the top spot. And first place at the AM category, 11th place overall, which will put him on the front row for the next race. David Whitehouse in our favourite livery of them all. Whew, what a race there, Paul.
Oh, indeed. It was very hard to predict. And whilst all the battle for the lead was going on, there were similar battles going on for further down the order. Particular one to call out, although we didn't catch it on camera, was between what was Lee Holmes and Jamie Dorian. I think Cockrell was also in the mix there in the battle for P8, and there were some similar battles further down. But that's the sort of racing that the Red Bull Ring is going to generate in these cars, because there's such a long delay on each straight and between each corner. It means that drivers can position themselves well and set themselves up for these grand moves. Now, the incident that we saw in the final lap between our leaders, where we saw the case that it was Smith being launched almost onto his side coming out of turn number 3, I think that was only destined to happen, where it was 3 drivers trying to all cram for an apex, where the road gradually narrows to the right-hander of turn number 4. And in the end, it was the case. I think 3 tried to go into 2 to go into 1. And, well, Doble just seemed to position himself everywhere he needs to. And you can see it here where it was the case. The Excite machine in the middle, and where it was only going to go one way, where one driver was going to end up falling off. And, well, Sam Smith happened to be on the outside here. And to be fair to Smith, brave attempt this. It shouldn't be discounted. This was a smart move. It'll be interesting to see how the stewards interpret this one. Thankfully, we're just commentating. We're not the stewards, because they're going to have their hands full. But you can see here, Delmont in the middle, and then Smith on the outside. Now Smith trying to hang it round, but in the end, with there only being so much room with Doble on the inside, well, I think Smith was only going to have to go even deeper into the corner, which would have seen him pretty much marry himself with that outside curb and potentially go off into the gravel. Or it was the case that he was going to make that contact, and he tried to stay as tight as he could, but in the end, Doble was able to pull away, and he found himself on that inside line. That's what Doble did time and time again in these battles. He put the car not just in the right place in terms of giving himself the opportunity to battle, but also the safest place on circuit, and it seems that Doble having that now, and it's the same from Adam Morgan as well. Notice how Adam Morgan over the course of all that battle stayed at the back of it and only picked up the places when he needed to, and that's why he's finished second place in this race.
Absolutely, and we'll go through the results now of race 1 here of the night, and remember, it's a reverse of the top 12 finishers in this race, which we'll get to very shortly. Mikey Doble takes the win, though, by just over half a second from Adam Morgan, and Adam Delmont in 3rd position. Keith Dempsey takes 4th position from Aaron Thompson, who was first in the Pro-Am category drivers listings. 6th to Nick Clibbens, 7th goes to Sam Smith, with that drama on the final lap there. 8th goes to Lee Holmes, who was involved in an incident at the front earlier on in the race. Jamie Dory with a big charge through the field, 12 places gained to get himself into 9th. Craig Cockrell takes 10th, with David Whitehouse, first of the AM category drivers, will line up on the front row of the next race. He's 11th overall. And Lewis Kent takes 12th place, and he'll get pole position for the next race of the night. 18 places Lewis Kent gained, the most of the field. So well-deserved reverse grid pole for Lewis Kent indeed. Look out for him in race 2. It is Tom Delaney who had 12 places gained for 13th place. Not enough for reverse grid, sadly. Mark Oliver in 14th with Nigel Stock in 15th. Ben Bennyworth takes 16th from Martin Smith in 17th. 18th goes to Ollie Peters and Deegan Fairclough behind in 19th, who did get sent to the back at the start of the race, but he charged his way back through to finish in 19th. Steve Thompson, 20th from Paul Scott in 21st. Glenn Humston, 22nd from Wayne Douglas in 23rd. Lee Horne with a disappointing race for himself in 24th. George Watson, 25th from Dustin Lamb in 26th. Mark Arrowsmith, 27th from Callum Jenkins in 28th, 29th to Simon Robson, Liam Silkstone in 30th and 31st. The last of the starters is James Clark. Well, what a opening race that was of the night, and we've got plenty more in store for you. We got a 15-minute sprint race following very, very shortly, but we're going to cut away for just a few minutes for a quick break. But when we come back, it will be the second race. I've been Alex Everett and Paul Walsh alongside me so far for this third round of the season. We'll see you very, very shortly.
I can't remember why. The fire's gone, I'm all burnt out, the embers have gone dry. I don't need your love to carry on. I don't need your love to make me strong. No, I've got courage to guide me through the dark. I've got courage to follow my own heart. Not everyone you lose is lost. At what cost? At what cost? I don't need to carry on. I don't need your love to make me strong. No. I've got courage to guide me through the dark. I've got courage to follow my
Welcome back everyone to the Red Bull Ring, Spielberg. This is the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup Round 3. And we have just seen race 1 where we saw Mikey Doble take top honours in what was a very, very back and forth race. I think we saw about 4 different leaders in that opening race of the night. And I don't think it's going to get any easier as the night goes on. We've got a 15-minute sprint race coming up in just a few minutes' time. And later on in the night, we have got a 25-minute feature race. But for now, we'll watch the drivers get a little bit of practice in and a little bit of housekeeping before things get underway. This is the calendar we're undergoing for the season. We're currently in round 3 of the championship. But in the new year, we will return for round 4 as we're having a week off next week. We'll be back for the Gilles Villeneuve round 4 of the championship. Daytona will take place for round 5 of the championship, and Bathurst will see us out for the first half of the season. Monza for round 7, and then round 8 will be at Snetterton. Zandvoort will take place for round 9 of the championship, and round 10 of the championship will be the Interlagos circuit. To see us out for the final 2 rounds of the championship, it's the streets of Long Beach in California, and then the Nürburgring Nordschleife will take place for the final rounds of the championship on the 14th of March. A 2-hour endurance rather than 3 races, and double points on offer for that race. So completely different strategies, completely different driving styles on a completely different kind of track for the final round of the championship. It's going to be very, very exciting. But for the here and now, we're here at the Red Bull Ring. So, this next race, a reverse of the top 12 from the previous race here, Paul. So, on pole position, we have, if I remind myself, I've gone very blank very quickly on who got pole position, but whoever it was, let's see how we get on in this race. It was a little bit argy-bargy in that first race, and a couple of people speaking about it on Discord, we've noticed.
Oh, indeed, but I think it's some hot heads at the end of the day, and you can imagine it's the case. We did see at the start quite a few battles kick off, a lot of drivers trying to find a space on the circuit. Then it calmed down in the midpoint of the race, and then the final 3 to 4 minutes, it all really escalated. And we focused a lot on the battle for the lead, which was a 5-way battle in the end. But I think those hot tempers and what are only natural, everybody wanting to get the best possible result, and the Red Bull Ring creates fantastic racing as we are now heading into race number 2 here as our group transition on over, and the grid is set.
And you'll do the honours of showing us the grid. Please do, Paul.
Okie dokie, for race at number 2 then, with that reverse grid, Lewis Kent, the pro-am driver, lines up on pole then and joined on the front row. He is joined by David Whitehouse, our AM driver. Craig Cockrell and Jamie Dory complete our second row, the 2 pros, then Lee Holmes and Sam Smith on row number 3. Nick Clemens and Aaron Thompson on row number 4, Aaron Thompson being your winner, of course, for the pro-ams in race number 1. Keith Dempsey and Adam Delmont on row number 5, and then Adam Morgan and Mikey Doble. Of course, Mikey Doble being your winner in the pro class in race number 1, and let's not count out the fact that David Whitehouse was your winner in the AM class in race number 1. We should never forget. Meanwhile, outside of our top 12 and outside that reverse grid, Tom Delaney and Mark Oliver complete row number 7. Then Nigel Stock and Benny Worth on row number 8, followed by Ollie Peters and Deegan Fairclough on row number 9, and then Steve Thompson and Paul Scott completing our top 20. Those 2 AM drivers looking to get a good result on the board here. Graham Humberstone and Wayne Douglas there as we move away from the grid and we get ready to go racing as we're waiting for the lights to go out. And as they're about to, it is the case that very shortly, any moment, it's green, and we are lights out and away we go once again, and all of our drivers take it away. And Lewis Kent getting a good start here, and David Whitehouse actually falling back to the lead, but a number of drivers in the midfield in the top 10 are really losing out at the start. And I think it's going to be the case Lewis Kent is going to have a rather unscathed start as they make their way through. Dustin Lamb has already jumped to the pits from what I'm hearing, and they go charging down towards turn number 1 here to all our drivers. But looking further back, we can see quite the scramble now as everybody trying to find their position in the run-up towards turn number 2, but quite a subtle start, and as they make the way up into the right-hander, into that braking zone they go. You can see Aaron Thompson there battling it further down the order, and as they make the way on in at Whitehouse, losing the position to Cockrell, but knowing he doesn't need to fight, but as they all concentrate together, and a lot of drivers going side by side. We've got a car spin there. That's Mikey Doble who's had a moment there coming out of turn number 2. I'm not sure if he's been turned or he's just simply turned himself on cold tyres, but Doble making a mistake, and well, now that is a surprise to the system. And as they make the way on in, what do you think, Alex?
Just looking at here, I didn't actually see what happened. Oh, and it's a nudge from the rear, and I can't quite work out who that was. I think it was one of the 88 Tech cars, but that sends Mikey Doble round and far down the order. So Mikey Doble's luck, although he's earned his way to the top in a lot of these races, let's not take that away from him. Luck's run out here, and he's sent to the back, and he's going to have to fight his way through. But remember, it's a full reverse grid for the next race, so even though he is quite far down, he will get a big advantageous grid slot for the next race. So as we approach the end of lap 1 here, the battle rage is on. Lewis Kent, who gained 18 places to get himself 12th and reverse grid pole for this race. He is up there in the lead, stretching away a little bit from Craig Cockrell. Lee Holmes going side by side with David Whitehouse into the final few corners here. Jamie Dory here, this car goes very wide off the track there. I think that was Aaron Thompson as we head through here. Jamie Dory backed up a little bit, and he's just got himself back ahead of Sam Smith, who will move his way past Jamie Dory as he drops down due to a slow down penalty. And that is a big loss for Jamie Dory. He moves out of the way of the drivers coming through, and through the first corner they go to start the second lap here. David Whitehouse doing very well here, in amongst a lot of other drivers here who are not in his category. There's a spin back there. That's Ollie Peters. Ollie Peters has spun coming out of turn. No, is it Ollie Peters? It's someone else actually. I think
it's Deegan Fairclough at the moment.
Yeah, indeed, so bad to worse for him tonight. Let's see if we can get a replay of that.
And Deegan Fairclough was also a driver who ran wide coming out to turn at number 8 on lap number 1, but as we are waiting to see the replay right now, a number of drivers being caught out. Now, what happened here? So as he's making his way out towards turn number 1, we're going to see a car coming down his inside, and also Ollie Peters there, who had to take evasive action, and Peters, to be fair, taking the safer, and it was the car in between who just clipped Deegan Fairclough. Not quite sure who that was at the time, but that is how the contact was made, and now Fairclough falling all the way down the order, as still it is the case. Well, Kent has just lost out on the lead versus Holmes here, as Lee Holmes takes the lead in the 88 Tech machine right now, but a little bit further back we can see Jamie Dory battling with Adam Morgan. Well, this is how the move was made for the lead, and Holmes making his way down on the inside here, keeping it nice and simple as he made his way on through. I think in the end Kent realised, you know, I'm not battling for the overall win, I'm battling for the win in my class, and decided to stay out of it. But meanwhile, as we come back to live cameras, Jamie Dory trying to find his way round the outside here, as we've got a Mazda MX-5 that just disappeared out of existence briefly. That's Nick Clibbens who's facing in and out of reality as they make the way down towards turn at number 8. You can see Aaron Thompson trying to get on this right now, but here's the difficult thing with this partial reverse grid. You can see a number of drivers in the Prime and the AM class sort of trying to filter their way down out the way of the pros, but not lose too much time. And to be fair, Whitehouse has done a great job of that right now, dropping down to P4. And I think that's what Thompson's now finding his way to. Aaron Thompson, he's in P10 and latching onto the back, and you can see now as they make the way into turn number 1 once again how Ken staying on that inside line, he's trying to bleed some momentum there. He's not going for the move, and Cockrell wasn't able to capitalise. In fact, Cockrell almost went into the back there of Ken. He had to put on the brakes and lift off the throttle to stop himself from carrying too much momentum through the corner, but that's the filtering process as they go charge out the hill. And you can see Whitehouse and Ken both staying to the outside here in the run up towards turn 2. They know their race is not with these guys, as meanwhile further back we can see that Smith trying to get on in as Dempsey goes on the inside, and you can see there Kent turning in and finding a face full of what was, I believe, that was Cockrell's car as they make the way out the corner, but the Irishman and Dempsey really staying on the narrow there and being able to capitalise. Now, can he get the move done versus Cockrell in the run down towards turn 2? I think if he can, he's going to have to do it late on the brakes here, because it looks as though still, once we've got Kent and Whitehouse on the outside, nobody's able to use that outside line. And you can see Delmont further back there, the Excite machine just simply tucking in and watching for the time being. They're not even 5 minutes into this race right now, but it is a mad scramble here for the top 5 in the Procast in particular as they come up into turn number 5 once again. Into the left hand they go. And it does look as though even more drivers are being brought into this as they make their way down the hill now towards turn at number 6. And a bit further back, we see Jamie Dory has called back up to the back of Aaron Thompson, Jamie Dory in P11. And as they all make their way through, Cockrell now side by side with what is Kent here. And it does look as though that Holmes is being given the opportunity of a lifetime here to break away, because Cockrell's trying to manage a situation where he forces Dempsey there to literally take to the grass. Now, whether it was the case there was space available or not, that's the stewards to look at. But as they make their way through, there's major contact there. 3 went into a corner, and only one of them emerged safely, and that's Dempsey who's made his way through. As we see it there, literally it's the case. Well, we have lost one driver who's gone flying off, and that was Ken. And I think Lewis Kent right now will be ruining that moment in this race.
Yeah, it was getting a little, in my opinion, I'm going to be very honest here, got a little bit silly there as drivers were forcing each other off the track. We'll see if we can get a little bit of a replay of that. I think we've got the right replay here. We'll take a quick look at that again. In fact, that's a little bit too late, so we'll take another look. So here we go. You can see Keith Dempsey takes to the grass and not letting him come back on the track there. Was it Clibbens? Or I'm not too sure. Oh no, it was Craig Cockrell, and they all came together. And actually, the passenger in that was Lewis Kent. He was just innocently turning into the corner, and that sent him back. And now he's down to as far as 18th, even though he started this race from pole. That's definitely one for the stewards after. It's just a few honest comments from myself there. But yeah, not the finest hour, I would say, for some drivers here. But the racing rages on still between some drivers. Oh, and it's come together in the middle here. Sam Smith, Jamie Dory, Aaron Thompson was involved there as he has to recover here. He's only just got himself back onto the track. Let's see if we can get a little replay of that just to see what happened. It did involve Sam Smith as well by the looks of it. So let's take a look. This is a view from Aaron Thompson. All nose to tail so far. Thompson takes to the inside, late brakes, and he tries to avoid it, but collects Sam Smith and also collects Jamie Dory, and I think that's Mick Clibbens as well that got collected by Aaron Thompson then. But yeah, we could see Aaron Thompson knew he messed it up, tried to evade, but it was just too little too late by that point.
Indeed, and that's one of the problems with these cars in particular, because they don't have the most outstanding brakes compared to if you're looking at a GT3 car, where these are not going to be the perfect carbon ceramics. When you do come heavy in the brakes and you start to notice, oh goodness, I'm actually going to go into somebody, your natural reaction as a driver is you want to put the brakes on harder, but in doing so you lock the brakes up, and as a result I think it's the case that you become a passenger in your own car. No matter, to be fair, Thompson tried to do everything he can, but it didn't quite work out, and he'll learn from that one. But you can see Mikey Doble meanwhile side by side there in the run through turn one, and both drivers deciding to go a little bit wide off the corner. I think it's side by side with what was at the time, that's not Ollie Peters, he was with what was Humberstone here, and Doble's going to have the run as Peters comes on through behind him, and as they come charging up towards turn number 2, you can see Doble going defensive early. He does not want to lose any more positions. As at the front of this picture we can see Dory there being sandwiched between what was Horne and Smith, and it is the case that Smith has emerged the victor in that freeway battle through turn number 2. Reverse Moses being conducted there on Jamie Dory, and he's lost out the 2 places for the price of 1 as they come charging down towards turn number 3. Once again, as they make their way down the hill, you can see Horne here on the inside having to defend versus Dory. Dory's going to go all the way around the outside here to show they can go side by side, as does Humberstone here versus what is Clibbins, although Humberstone on the inside here versus Clibbins on the outside. And to be fair, they both emerge from the corner and now make their way down into turn number 5, and as they come into this braking zone, I think Clibbins is going to have the advantage here, and Humberstone would be wise just to tuck in for now and wait for that opportunity to emerge to come back a bit later on. There is still just under half this race to go, and it's not over yet, and Mikey Doble is showing that right now, because after that misfortune at the start, Doble is already back up into the top 10 and continuing on his crusade to get back into the top 5 as they come charging over the ridge and down into turn 8, going into the right hand now, and it is the case that Ollie Peters tucked in behind Horne right now, and I think Peters just waiting for that opportunity, as meanwhile Adam Morgan here, the car gods driver, in that P5 ahead of Craig Cockrell, and Cockrell here, to be fair, despite everything that's happened, he's keeping his head up high and continuing to press on. And I think for a number of drivers here, it is all about just getting your head back in the game when it goes wrong, and indeed with these machines in this type of circuit, anything is possible over the course of 15 minutes.
Absolutely, and just coming back to Mikey Doble, he was back to where he started. He's now 2 places ahead of where he started, and bear in mind, on the first lap Mikey Doble was sent back to last place, which is 28th. So a big comeback here from Mikey Doble. Has got himself back into a good point scoring position, but it is one of his championship rivals at the top here. Lee Holmes clear away at the top, hasn't taken a race win yet this season, and as of the previous race he'd taken 2nd place in the championship from Bobby Thompson, who's not racing tonight, I may remind you. So a good night so far for Lee Holmes, and he's in the clear here, just shy of 3 seconds clear of Adam Delmont, who is having a pretty good night. He got himself into 3rd in race 1. He's now 2nd here in race 2. Still battling with Keith Dempsey, so it is still plenty more to do. Keith Dempsey, who you could argue had an opportunity for a podium spot in the first race, taken away from him through a few incidents here and there. But yeah, not a bad result here for Keith Dempsey at the moment. David Whitehouse, this is seriously impressive driving from him tonight. He's been running up towards the top 10 in race 1, and here he's on his own there in P4. He'll take that indefinitely, but the shameful thing is each driver is scored based on their category position. So although he's up here in 4th overall, doesn't actually do any benefit to his championship in the AM category, so it's quite a shame. But it is impressing a lot of people, certainly, that Dave Whitehouse, in the AM category considered the lesser experienced drivers, so they're put into that category to have a championship of their own, to give them a fighting chance when they're not really considered to be battling up the front here. But David Whitehouse is defying that and doing it very well. Meanwhile, back here we've got a lot of scuffling on for position here. Ollie Peters the head of a battle here from Jamie Dory, Nick Clibbins, Lee Horne and Nigel Stock. And Nigel Stock was on the inside there, had to run very slowly to avoid an incident, and he's sent back to 14th place and back into 3rd in category. Lee Horne and Glenn Humston passed him for category position. Lee Horne is back into the top spot for his category, and this will certainly help his championship bid. Meanwhile, at the front here, Mikey Doble in between Adam Morgan and Craig Cockrell there. Oh, and there's a spin back here. Ollie Peters. Something happened to Ollie Peters here. Let's see if we can get a quick replay as he gets going again. Oh, and he might have just collected another car as we skip to the replay. But here we go, Ollie Peters going into the hairpin. Was it a nudge from behind? Oh, it might have been. It was. And it sends him round. He's just a passenger in that. And there's been a few of them in this race, hasn't there, Paul?
Oh, there has indeed, and a lot of drivers, to be fair, you can understand why they're going for the move such as that. It's because there's the space being afforded on the inside into 2, but the problem is, again, coming in heavy on the brakes into turn 2, it's an uphill corner, so you can brake later, but I think it's just one of those situations where drivers are carrying a lot of momentum in, and then they're realising that the driver in front hasn't seen them coming from so far back. And it's something we talked about in the break, is the idea of certain moves, such as the Daniel Ricciardo moves that you saw in Formula 1, those very late lunges on the brakes. They're brilliant when they occur, but it normally requires the driver up front to be aware that you're coming and that you're not going to turn the steering wheel to turn into the corner. Unfortunately, when it doesn't work out, it's normally the driver in front who turns in and unexpectedly, of course, finds a car up their inside at very short notice. It's risk versus reward, and it seems as though that risk has really punished a number of drivers this time around. Indeed, the stewards will be looking at that going out of tonight and going into the Christmas break. But meanwhile, coming back to our live pictures, we see Mikey Doble here continuing to press on, and meanwhile at the front, Lee Holmes is gradually being reeled in right now by Delmont and Dempsey. It is the case that right now they're only 1.1 seconds away, and I think we are on the penultimate lap as it currently stands. We'll just creep in one more lap after this one, although it's going to be very tight, but you can see the mad scramble. And to be fair, something I noticed with regards to Nigel Stock in P12 right now, I'm wondering whether him losing those 2 places at turn 1 was planned, because right now he's got the spectator view with regards to the battle for the lead in the Pro-Am class, and I think he's aware of what happens to the pros at the end of race 1, and he's waiting for Humberstone and Horne to kick off because they have been battling hard, and Stock has brought that gap back down from a second. He's already 3 tenths, and you can see him now. He's all over the back of Humberstone and Horne as they've traded places into turn 2. And I think Stock, the Englishman, the Stock racing with Spectre here, could be within a good shot of taking the win here in the Pro-Am class. He's playing this one smart. He's waiting for those opportunities to appear as he tries to go around the outside of Humberstone here, but he's got to be careful. He knows that if he battles Humberstone too hard, he affords Horne the opportunity to break away, and you can see that's why he's not battling hard. But meanwhile, Lee Holmes making his way out of turn 6 and across to 7 and continuing to press on this number 35 car as the 88 Tech Machine here tries to make the break from Delmont and Dempsey. They are now within 9 tenths, but at the rate of closure, I do not think it's going to be enough unless Holmes makes a mistake on his final lap. We've got half a minute to go, so we will get one more lap in here, but Holmes, I think, is going to hold on. As you can see, it's the case that Dempsey, I think, has backed off. He knows that Delmont can pull him up towards the lead. They don't want to fight because they'll turn it into a 2-way fight for P2, not a 3-way fight for the win as they go on to the final lap. That white flag is now out, but can it be the case that Holmes holds on, or will Delmont get close enough come the end? It's now 5.5 tenths the gap, and in fact at the rate of closure there, goodness me, and Holmes getting it wrong there on the sausage curb on the exit of turn 1 and making him cock a wheel as a result. And I think that will be enough now to give Delmont and Dempsey the confidence to go on the offensive in the run to turn number 3. It's one small mistake, and as they make the way out towards the braking zone here for turn 2, a first opportunity arises, and we can see Dempsey immediately seizing the opportunity. He's like a shark with blood in the water. As soon as he sniffs it, he goes for the move. And now the Irishman, well, he's gone deep, and as a result, it's cost him the ability to get the momentum out the corner. And you can see he's squeezing their Delmont to the grass, but giving Delmont the space in the end, with the fact Delmont did have himself alongside with 2 wheels on the circuit. And as they make their way down towards turn 2, this has afforded Holmes the opportunity to hold on to that lead going into turn 3 rather than under pressure. And as they make their way through the long right-hander at turn number 3 and now through 4, they come on through at this point. No change at the moment other than Dempsey moving ahead of Delmont, and as they come into the left-hander of 5 now. Will we see a move? It's going to happen. I reckon it will happen in the final 2 corners here, but I think Holmes is doing everything he can. He knows now there's only a couple more corners to go. He's just got to keep breathing, just got to keep it cool here. This is the worst possible moment in the race when you know the finish line is almost there, and you can see Dempsey just trying to inch every part of that car around the circuit right now, trying to squeeze that gap down. He's got it down to 2.5 tenths. There's 2 more corners to go here, and as they make their way down the hill into turn number 8, will we see a move into the final corner? It's not an actual overtaking place. Turn number 9, you can see Delmont going wide. Dempsey looks the inside, and as they come through the corner, it's the case. There's no space to get the move done. So as they come out the final corner, it's a drag race to the finish line, and it will be Lee Holmes who takes the win ahead of Dempsey, and Delmont just missing out on P2, and then behind them in P4 it is going to be a win in the AM class for David Whitehouse. I think he'll be smiling from ear to ear as he crosses the line in P4 overall. Mikey Doble inches to the line in P5. That's P4 in the Pro class, and as all drivers come across, Lee Horne takes the win in the end in the Pro-Am class in P10, only 1 second ahead of Nigel Stock, who came home in P8. P11 and completes our top 12. Glenn Humberstone there, the Pro-Am driver. But as all our drivers come across that finish line right now, we can see it has been an absolutely dramatic race. And, well, a number of unexpected results and a number of shocks up and down the field, as we can see. And meanwhile, Mark Arrowsmith there coming across in P23 and Dustin Lamb P24. And my goodness, Alex, what a race. And really, it sets us up very nicely for race number 3, does it not?
Excellent racing yet again. There's a couple of real iffy moves in there. A couple of drivers forced on the grass here and there. It was very exciting to watch, that's got to be said. And it's getting real heated between these drivers. You can definitely tell that. So race 3, the longer race, is going to be certainly very, very interesting. Lee Holmes did hang on there. He was under a little bit of pressure from Keith Dempsey and Adam Delmont, it's got to be said. But Lee Holmes won't care about the time difference or the time lost during that race. All he cares about is those big points that he scored at the top of the table there. But a tremendous race from himself. And also David Whitehouse, he's having a tremendous meeting in the AM category there. He's right, look at him in the standings there. He's the one in 4th place in the shade of blue. He's right in the middle of some big names in the pro category. If he's not careful, they'll shove him up a category. I'm not sure if they can at this point in the season, but wow, this is some performance from him. And it might have, well, be a stamp on first place in the championship for him. But also Lee Horne taking first in the Pro-Am category. Very important for him to get good points over Aaron Thompson. So a very, very impressive result from Lee Horne tonight so far. But we'll go, without further ado, Paul, go through the results of this second race of the night here.
Okay, well, our results for race number 2. Lee Holmes in the end taking the win by what was 1/10 in the end of Keith Dempsey, and Adam Delmont completing our overall pro podium and our pro podium as well. Our top 3 being separated by 1.5 tenths when all said and done. Then P4, our winner in the AM class, David Whitehouse, finishing ahead of Mikey Doble. Mikey Doble recovering after that incident on the opening lap all the way up to P5 overall, P4 in class. Sam Smith in P6, Craig Cockrell P7, Adam Morgan P8, Jamie Dory P9, and our top 10 overall being rounded off by our Pro-Am winner of Lee Horne, who finished in 1 second ahead of Nigel Stock, Glenn Humberstone in P12, Liam Silkstone in P13, and Lewis Kent in P14, and how he will be ruining what could have been quite the coast to the win in the Pro-Am class. But I think he'll look back on this one and learn from it and look at the example that David Whitehouse set in terms of staying out of the trouble with the pros coming on through. Our top 15 being completed by Aaron Thompson there, finishing off the 6 drivers in the Pro-Am pack that finished from P10 to P15, and then Ben Bennyworth, Ollie Peters, Nick Clibbins, and as we look further down the results order here to our top 20, Mark Oliver and Tom Delaney completing our top 20. Mark Arrowsmith in the end finishing P21 and just finding his rhythm, I would say, at the Red Bull Ring circuit, and I believe also not having the happiest day at the races so far. Dustin Lamb P22, Steve Thompson P23, Paul Scott P24, George Watson P25, Wayne Douglas, Callum Jenkins and Deegan Fairclough completing our order, and I believe there was a retirement from Deegan Fairclough 6 laps from the end due to damage on the car. And we did see quite a mangled MX-5 in the hands of Fairclough and Key Racing during the course of the race. But a fantastic race indeed. Now, with the full reverse grid coming along for race number 3, we will see Deegan Fairclough and Callum Jenkins line up on the front row. And as we look all the way back up to the top of the results standings, it will be the case that Lee Holmes and Keith Dempsey will need to find their way through the order right now. Mikey Doble as well, who will be starting quite far back. He'll be starting on what is the 3rd row. He'll be looking for an opportunity to scythe his way on through. It's going to definitely be an unpredictable one over the 25-minute race.
Yes, it will. One more race for you, ladies and gentlemen, and it's coming up in a few moments' time. This is the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup Round 3 at Red Bull Ring. That was race 2, and we've got race 3 coming up very shortly. Don't go away.
cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife, leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. Black and white, just
Welcome back everyone to the Red Bull Ring, Spielberg in the Styrian Mountains of Austria. This is round 3 of the championship for the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup. And race 3 is coming up very, very shortly, a 25-minute feature race where we've already seen half an hour's worth of competitive racing, with race 1 and race 2 going to Mikey Doble in race 1, and in race 2 it was Lee Holmes. And we've seen plenty of battling, plenty of incidents, plenty of great drama, plenty of great overtakes as well. But it is not going to end anytime soon. We've got one more race to go tonight, the 25-minute feature race. And we have a week off next week, but we'll be back in 2 weeks from today. It'll be round 4 of the championship. So the 3rd of January is when you're going to tune in again, hopefully, to catch us on Crest Autosport TV on YouTube and Twitch, but also NXTGEN Racing on Facebook. But the rest of the season will go as follows. Round 5 will be the Daytona road course, followed by round 6 to see us out for the first half of the season, the Bathurst Mans Panorama Circuit in Australia. Round 7 of the championship in Italy for the Monza Grand Prix Circuit. Snetterton 300 layout will take place for round 8 of the championship, with the Zandvoort Grand Prix Circuit of round 9. The final quarter of the season will start with Interlagos, followed by the streets of Long Beach in California for round 11, and the final round of the championship. It'll be a 2-hour endurance with double points on offer, and it will be the Nürburgring Nordschleife, the longest track on iRacing, to see us out for the final round of the season on the 14th of March. So do tune in for the rest of the season on Crest Autosport TV on YouTube and Twitch, as we mentioned, and NXTGEN Racing on Facebook. Give us a like, follow, share, or subscribe from wherever you are watching. Very much appreciated, and we hopefully will see you along for the entire journey over the next 3 months or so. But we have got one more race to go tonight to see us out for the first quarter of the season. So, Paul, what can we expect from this final race? Now, the difference between this race and the last few feature races we've seen is it's not meant to be a pit stop, and there's definitely not going to be a pit stop in this third race here.
So I think with there being no pit stop this time around, it's going to have a bit of a different dynamic here, because over the 25 minutes, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to gain ground, but we should see a much more restrained approach from our drivers. I expect drivers to be a little bit calmer in terms of making overtakes here, because they know over the course of 25 minutes, cars can break off into packs. I don't think we're going to see the mad scrambles anymore for position early on, but we'll wait and see. Of course, there might be a few, but I think it is going to be a little bit calmer as now our drivers are getting to the grid.
And our grid is as follows. Callum Jenkins on pole with Wayne Douglas in second. George Watson in third, followed by Paul Scott. Dustin Lamb in fifth place with Mark Arrowsmith in sixth. And in seventh will be Tom Delaney with Mark Oliver in eighth. Nick Clibbins ninth with Ollie Peters in 10th with Ben Bennyworth in 11th. Aaron Thompson in 12th. 13th will go to Lewis Kent and Liam Silkstone in 14th. 15th will go to Glenn Humberstone with Nigel Stock alongside him in 16th. Lee Horne in 17th with his teammate Jamie Dory alongside in 18th. Adam Morgan with a good debut tonight in 19th with Craig Cockrell in 20th. Sam Smith 21st with Mikey Doble in 22nd, our race 1 winner. David Whitehouse in 23rd with Adam Delmont 24th. Keith Dempsey in 25th, and our race 2 winner Lee Holmes will start in 26th with Deegan Fairclough in 27th. But we are about to get underway here for the third race of the night, the final race. 4, 3, 2, 1, and away we go. And a brilliant start by the looks of it from Callum Jenkins at the front. Away he goes, and a very bad start for third place runner George Watson as we approach turn 1 now. Tucking in behind Callum Jenkins is Wayne Douglas in the Red Bull livery, very apt for this track right here, right now. Through turn 1 we go. Will everyone get through the track and corner safely? Here we go, out of turn 1. It seems that everybody has got through nice and safe and sound at the back. Let's keep an eye on all those drivers. We've got Mikey Doble coming through the back. Did a very good comeback in race 1 after being sent to the back in the first corner, in the second corner here as we approach it now. Through goes Wayne Douglas on the inside of Callum Jenkins. He doesn't fight too much for that, does Mr. Jenkins? But he lets through Douglas into the lead. Through they go, and are there any... oh, there is someone off. That's Nigel Stock. He's spun around, and he is straggling behind. But it's a long race. He might be able to try and catch back up. Let's see if there... I don't think there is a replay. It might have been a spin on its own there for Nigel Stock. But into turn 4 we go, and a big move there from George Watson on the inside of Tom Delaney as we go into turn 4 there. Around the corner we go. Watson takes 4th place here. Oh, and there's a car off in the background. I think that's Lewis Kent. Yes, it is. So Lewis Kent, who had a disappointing midpoint in race 2, is sent back towards the back here, and he's trying to keep it off the track to keep it out of the way of the other cars. So they all filter past him. It's a bad start to this race for Lewis Kent here, Paul.
Indeed, Lewis Kent having a difficult start, but the one thing that really does scream out right now is Wayne Douglas, after getting past Jenkins, who was quite compliant into turn 2, as you say, Alex. Now he's really making that break nice and early on, but it's been a restrained start, although I think we're now going to see some elbows come out as Aaron Thompson here goes to the early move versus Dustin Lamb into turn number 8. Lamb not fighting this one too hard, though. He runs a little bit wide there and carries the momentum on through, but I think a lot of our drivers recognise that this is a 25-minute race. It's not a 15-minute race. They've got time to play with this one as they come across that line to complete lap number 1 of the many they're going to complete here. And we can see there's a case that with Lamb running wide, he has to take a slowdown penalty there. He'll burn that and he'll drop in amongst the pack. He'll drop down to approximately P25 when all is said and done. But as they all make their way now through turn number 1, once again, note how close the field is at the moment. We haven't seen too many battles, though. I say that now, right at the foreground of your pitch here, we have got almost a 4-wide situation in the battle for what is effectively, if I'm not mistaken, P4. And as they come roaring up the hill in towards the braking zone for turn number 2, it is the case that right now Mark Oliver there on the outside behind the battling leaders are always Delaney and Nick Clibbins. Of course, Nick Clibbins the pro driver, Delaney the AM driver, and Delaney here staying on the outside line, and you can see how it's bringing all the pack behind now in as a swarm. And as they come charging down towards turn at number 3, once again as we're hearing Keith Dempsey has jumped to the pit for an instant on circuit earlier in this lap. We can see it's the case with Keith Dempsey in there as we are drivers both the way through, and Wayne Douglas leading. It's a situation whereby Bennyworth holding on there to that P7 as they make their way out of 3 and through the right-hander of 4 right now. But it's a lot less scrambled as they make their way now into 5, or is it as they come into that braking zone? It does look as though some drivers looking for an overtaking opportunity, and that, I think that's Lee Horne and George Watson who've come together there on the run into turn number 5. And it's that Watson buried in the gravel there as we see Lee Horne reversing his way back up onto circuit. But my goodness, I thought it was all going to be calm, and well, commentator's curse applied as a Horne just went in deep there. And did he tap the back of the car in front of him as well. I'm not 100% sure, but they did all come together at once. And that was Aaron Thompson ahead. And I think, no, Lee Horne didn't make contact, but instead I think he locked up on the brakes. And then the driver on the outside, Watson, in the end got connected with him as we look back to live pictures right now. And a couple of drivers have jumped to the pits. George Watson has just jumped to the pits, but meanwhile, as we continue to watch on as they complete this lap, they complete the second tour of the circuit. A bit of a challenging start for many, as we continue to see Liam Silkstone making ground right now. Well, in fact, he's dropped 2 places since the start, but holding on to the best of his abilities. And further up the road, we can see it's the case that Paul Scott now trying to break away from Callum Jenkins and go racing after our lead. And this is how he got the move done. It was into the final corner here, and Jenkins, to be fair, gave him the space. And I do think we are seeing well, that was turn 1, not the final corner, my apologies, but we're seeing a different mentality from some drivers here. A number of drivers up front recognising they don't need to fight that hard early on.
Absolutely, and we're seeing more battles in the mid-pack here. Big lunge on the inside there. I think that was Deegan Fairclough on the inside there. And Deegan hasn't had a very good night, actually, and he's looking for a lot of redemption in this race. The 10th place car here, up 17 places from the start, the biggest mover off the field so far. 27th on the grid to 10th, the back off the grid, and he's about to turn it into a 3-wide situation here. Past Aaron Thompson and Jamie Dory he goes. Slightly different livery on Deegan Fairclough's car this time around. But as we go through, Deegan stays in 10th place. Actually, it wasn't to move for position, as he's now got in front of him Adam Morgan. He takes a look to the inside but can't quite make the move work. But Adam Morgan is also held up by Ben Bennyworth and Ollie Peters as wide. Back there is Aaron Thompson. He recovers to get it back on the track and doesn't lose too much momentum. Battling there with Jamie Dory, and he gets it back in front, it seems. But there's a lot going on in this race so far, and we can see back here, this is Ollie Peters versus Adam Morgan. Morgan's being pushed along by Fairclough and into turns 8 or 9, whichever one you want. Oh, and Peters gets a bash from the side from Adam Morgan. Peters has to try and keep it on the track, which he does so very well indeed. Back onto the track he goes. He can't quite rejoin yet, but he will rejoin in 12th here. It's just been a night going from bad to worse for Ollie Peters.
Indeed, but if he ever weighed a career in cricket in the way he caught that car, I wonder if he's been inspired by the recent Ashes, because that was very well handled given everything that happened. But it's the case he's not been bowled out of this race yet, as we put the cricket puns aside and our drivers make the way up the hill once again. But you can see that one instant now, Peters is at the head of a pack. We've got Aaron Thompson as well, who ran wide out of turn 5 and through 6, and you see Mikey Doble trying to give a little bit of a push there to what looks to be Smith up the hill in towards turn 2. And now Doble starting to extend the arms a little bit. He's going for the move. He's going to turn into a 4 wide into the break, and the Excite machine there getting bounced around with contact with Sam Smith. And as they make the way out of turn number 2 and go charging down towards 3, again Doble just finding a way of putting himself safely on the inside of other drivers and gaining those places. And as they come down towards turn number 3 here, it's the case as they make the way on down, battling it up front. We can see it's Paul Scott trying to hold off the driver going around the outside of Nick Clibbins here, but I do think that Scott right now is going to stay on that inside to outside line here and give Clibbins the opportunity to gain the position. As meanwhile, that's Ben Bennyworth, who's had a mother of all moments coming out of turn 2. Oh, good, turn 3, and goodness me, is that Aaron Thompson there? As we see Bennyworth taking it back to the pit. Did those two come together? Because it looked as though Thompson didn't want to resume. Indeed, they did come together there, although we're only just seeing the aftermath of it, and that's why Thompson parked it up. I think he was trying to give the space back. Indeed, Thompson just coming in and Bennyworth turning through the apex. And I think Bennyworth had gone deep into the corner already, and Thompson in the end finding himself into what was at the time Bennyworth's car as they make the way on through the corner. But meanwhile, as we look back to live pictures right now, with almost 7.5 minutes of this race complete, we would be at the halfway point if this was one of our 15-minute sprints, but of course we've got the extra 10 minutes in this race. But indeed, a number of incidents already, but the big thing to take away right now is particularly up front and not a mad scramble for positions. It seems as though particularly our top 6 are all keeping it relatively calm, as Ollie Peters here in the battle for P9 versus Callum Jenkins is trying to gain ground on the prime driver here, and he's got the pressure of Delmont behind him as we look at the Excite iRacing blue driver who's making the scramble to the inside in the long run up towards turn number 2. He's gone early on this, and you can see Callum Jenkins has pulled over to the right side. I think he's trying to give Delmont the opportunity to battle there, so it gives Jenkins a bit of breathing room, and where it's going to be Delmont who looks to move on the inside here, and Peters backs out there as Delmont goes indeed there, but gets it nicely tucked in, as I think we've had Mark Oliver have a moment there, and indeed Oliver dropping down the field like a stone right now. I think he got it wrong going through turn at number 2, 2. And as he came up here, the 88 Tech Williams Motorsports driver heavy on the brakes, and well, it was not contact. He just simply attacked that curve a bit too hard, got on the power, and the rear release. Then when he went onto the grass, that's when it all went wrong, because he just couldn't carry the momentum, and he rejoined the racing, but he's dropped a long way down the order. But after, well, it's 8.5 minutes right now, it is still Wayne Douglas leading by 6.5 seconds ahead of the rest of the field, and Clibbin's now up into P2, and Paul Scott, our AM leader, in P3, and he's got Tom Delaney, who we're looking at here, chasing after him. Indeed, these two are quite inseparable at the moment, but I think they are going to start to have some pros wedge themselves between the bickering couple of AM drivers as they make their way up towards turn number 8. As we can see, Deacon Fairclough looking for that overspeed into turn 8 here. I think he's going to look for it. If not here, he'll look for it into turn number 1. But as they make their way through the double right-hand sequence, you can see Delaney goes a bit deep, then Fairclough takes the move to the inside here. I think he's had enough, and as they make their way out of the corner here, it's the situation where we can see Morgan trying to go down the inside, as I think it's the case that Fairclough might be having to lift off here as he drops out of the position, and we can see Adam Morgan now on the inside as they go on to another lap. Now, can Morgan get this move done? If so, it's going to be a bit of tic-tac-toe and a masterclass of tactics on the car gods machine as he makes his way through the corner. You can see Fairclough hangs it around the outside. He's not giving this one up yet, and I think Morgan just having to play the patience game once again. But as they make their way charging up the hill once more here, and they come charging up towards turn number 2, I think we've got a situation right now where it's going to be Tom Delaney, where he's backed off of this battle. He doesn't want to be involved in it anymore. He knows the battling with these guys is only going to see Paul Scott disappear off up the road, and as they make their way out of 2 and head down towards 3, I think it's going to be now a case, well, Delaney will watch on, and Jamie Dury will be the next driver lining up Delaney to go for and move here and go chasing after that battle for what is effectively P2 in the Pro class as they make their way down into the heavy braking zone here for turn number 3. And they come on in, and Fairclough going defensive, but notice the rear brake disc in particular. A lot of these drivers go, oh goodness me, and just as we're going to be talking about braking, it looks as though there's been a breakage in terms of Tom Delaney's racing momentum, because Jamie Dory with a bit of contact there, going through turn number 3, and I think Jamie Dory, we've got the move done now, but a little bit forceful at the end of the day as they make their way down through turn number 5. What was your take on that, Alex? And apologies, ladies and gentlemen, I do think we might have some slight technical issues with our colleague Alex at the moment. So as a result, we shall carry on all the same until he does return. But as our drivers make their way around the circuit right now, it is one of the situations with 10 minutes clear. We've still got just under 15 minutes to go. In fact, 14 minutes at this point in time. All our drivers come roaring through on the circuit. We can see Delaney carrying on in that P8 position at 4 now as they make their way out of the final corner as they come roaring across that timing line here and go on to another lap. It is a situation where Delaney just watching on, as we can see there. Doble now looking for the move here, and Adam Delmont at the front of this header as they make their way through. And Doble's going to get the move done very smoothly indeed as he comes on through turn number 1 and heads up towards turn number 2. And well, I thought he was going to get it done where it looks though in fact he's still side by side with Delaney, so that's going to give Delmont the opportunity to run away. And I think we got you back, Alex?
Yes, you got me back. Just a quick intermission there for myself. But yeah, lots going on in this pack so far. Everyone just trying to establish their positions. What is a long race here. They try and keep their nose out of trouble. And there's a lot of drivers trying to come through the pack to make sure they get some good points in this race. I.e. Adam Delmont and Mikey Doble have been some of the biggest movers in the field so far. Deegan Fairclough as well. Adam Morgan putting on quite the show as well. He finds the inside of Fairclough, who swaps to the inside for turn 3 or 4 here. And Adam Morgan has to stay on the outside here, tucked back in behind Deegan Fairclough, who is the biggest mover of the field so far. There is something happening in the middle here. Another incident involving Ollie Peters. Let's get a replay of that. So we can see Ollie Peters very much on his own here. But coming up behind him, a nudge from the rear. Oh no, and it sends him round and collects the car. Did contact in the first place, and I'm not quite sure. I couldn't quite make out who that was. But Ollie Peters, a day that's just gone from bad to worse, hasn't it, Paul?
Indeed, for Ollie Peters, I think it's been one of those ones we won't want to remember as we say that Adam Morgan there comes into contact with Deegan Fairclough and it kicks off another moment there. And indeed, I think a number of drivers very fortunate not to be taken with him as they make their way down. And Adam Morgan has jumped to the pits, and that is his race effectively over right now. Now, how did this play out? Was they went down into turn 8. You can see Morgan on the inside, Fairclough turning in, and the contact between the two of them. And well, fortunately, that's Jamie Dory who connected with Adam Morgan. But you can can see the damage to the suspension of the MX-5, and in the end, as they made their way around, well, I think Jamie Dory had nowhere to go, and I think that is very unfortunate. That slight bit of contact, and it has ended Adam Morgan's race, and that is an upset to a driver who is having a brilliant debut. But as we look back to live pictures right now, and we can see Mikey Doble in all this continuing to get, he's already up into P6. That is P4 in his class as he makes his way on through. You can see they're snaking his way on in. It's Lee Holmes as well, as Lee Holmes finds his way through, and Jamie Dory at this point I think feeling a little bit pedestrian, but now he's going to try and come back in the run down towards turn number 3 as they come down heavy on the brakes here. We've cleared the halfway point of this race, and now that we're moving into that second half again, we are starting to see those overtakes occur as we see Jamie Dory trying to go all the way around the outside of Holmes here, as Holmes was boxed in to the back of Mikey Doble, but gives himself that inside line, that inside into turn 3, so critical. We've seen time and time again, if you're on that inside, there seems to be the better traction zone, and as they make their way through 4 and through the left-hander at 5 now, Doble holding on, and we can see that behind, Holmes trying to follow him through here. There's got a bit of dust being kicked up ahead, and that is Fairclough battling with what is Delmont right now, and it is the case that Fairclough, I think the gloves have come off. He sees that opportunity to go hunt down the lead of the Pro Class, but Delmont's not going to give this one up. If there's one thing that Delmont does not do, it is give up positions easily, and as they make their way into turn number 8, you can see he was looking now for the double on the inside here to turn number 8. He's going to try and sneak it down the inside, but in the end he has to back out because he knows that Apex is going to taper very tight, and he's at a risk of contact if he doesn't back the car out. And as they make their way out to 9 and head up towards the start finish line once again to go on to another lap, Doble right now in the mid pack of what is 5 pro drivers all chasing down the race leader right now. But their leader in the pro class, Nick Clibbins, he is the best part of 4.5 seconds up the road, and quite peacefully right now just enjoying the calm before the storm, as meanwhile right at the front of the field, 6.6 seconds clear, is the prime driver of Wayne Douglas, who hasn't put a foot wrong so far, wouldn't you say, Alex?
Absolutely, and something I have just noticed in the stats so far for this season, no non-pro driver has won a race outright yet this season. Wayne Douglas could be the first if all goes to plan here, but we got 3 wide. Mikey Doble sandwiched in the middle of Delmont and Fairclough here. That is not the sandwich you want to be in between, particularly if you're championship leader. Mikey Doble, a good night so far. 16 places gained in this race here. 6th place in the race at the moment. He's in the midst of a big battle here between a lot of big hitters in this series. We've got Delmont, Fairclough, Holmes and Dory here as well. On the inside goes Fairclough. He's really got his elbows out. He's just had not the best of nights so far, and he needs to get a better result tonight. Into 4th he goes, but he has got Delmont still on his inside to take back that position. Through the left-hander we go, and Doble has dropped behind Lee Holmes now, who will look to try and get up with Adam Delmont and get it past the pair of them, presumably him and Fairclough. As we go through the next corner, it's still side by side between Delmont and Fairclough. It is brilliant racing here at Red Bull Ring, always side by side, but we've seen a lot of contact and problems persist in this next corner as we see Doble try to get to the inside of Fairclough, but he is not letting him through. Holmes is to the outside of Doble and Fairclough, but Doble recovers well, and he gets it back past Holmes and tries to get it back up the inside of Fairclough, but he couldn't make it. Somehow Holmes didn't get it into the position ahead of Fairclough and Doble there, because they were just so resilient in hanging on to that position there. Holmes remains 7th for the time being, but has the inside and may take 6th into this next corner.
As they make their way into turn 1 right now, one thing that's worth noticing as well is Lee Holmes makes the move on the inside there, but you can see Doble having to swerve out of the way, with Holmes being compromised on that tight line. Is the case that Cockrell right now is closed up, and Tom Delaney and Callum Jenkins are just a little bit further back. All this battling is bringing drivers further down the order into the hunt as they go charging up the hill towards turn number 2. Once again here in Doble making the move on the inside as we see Fairclough battling with Delmont into the corner, and as they make their way through 2 by 2, hurrah hurrah as Noah's Ark would say, they go charging out of the corner and down towards turn number 3. But I think that right now what one of them's got to do soon is take the lead disorder and try to get them all to go line astern for a brief while, because this is just giving Nick Clibbins the opportunity to continue to break away. He's now 5.5 seconds up the road, and as they make their way down to turn 3, Doble on the inside of Holmes once again as they come on through, lighting up the brake disc both drivers as they come out of 3 and into 4. It's going to be Holmes back on the inside for turn number 5 here, surely, as they come into that heavy break. So you can see Dory now scrambling with Cockrell, and Cockrell here trying to find his way and pick his way through the field. We know Craig Cockrell, a fast driver in his element here at the Red Bull Ring, but he can't quite get it to work at this point in time. And with only 7 minutes to go as the clock counts down, now it becomes the race for position. No longer is it about keeping it cool, because these guys will now start to notice, particularly for the likes of Dory and Cockrell, they need to try and find the way to the front of this pack. That's the highest they plan to finish, and as they come charging through turn number 8, it's a situation where I think Cockrell will soon be trying to size up that move on Dory if Dory cannot get the job done on Doble soon, because it is one of those situations where I think Cockrell's got a lot of pace underneath the hood of that Mazda MX-5, but he's just not able to unleash it whilst he's stuck here. And Dory going up onto the grass there and deciding to take a two-wheel dip onto the grass, and as they make the way up, we can see Fairclough versus Delmont at the front of the picture once again. And Fairclough gets the move done, but he goes very, very deep as we see Lee Holmes there really attacking the exit curve there and almost launching the car off the sausage. And as they make the way down towards turn 2, well, Delmont just able to pick and choose where to place his car, and now it means that Holmes is up in position as Fairclough lost out in the run. And we can see in the rear view picture here is the case that Cockrell gaining on Dory, as we see Fairclough going for the move on the inside here versus Holmes. But now it's all about the drag race down towards turn number 3, where Fairclough making sure there that Holmes could not get back on the circuit as rapidly as he might want to. I think it is the case that Holmes has lost out a bit of momentum. And now as they make their way down towards turn number 3, it's going to be Fairclough who defends here into 3. But this will give Delmont the opportunity just to open up a little bit of a gap, give himself a breather as Doble looks to the inside. And there's contact between the two of them, and Doble presses on here. But I think this is not the last we've heard of it, as Holmes has been spun. And as they make their way down towards turn number 5, we take a look back, and as well, we're looking back here. I think it's plain to see with Doble looking down the inside as Holmes turned in there. Well, Doble tried to get his nose on in, but in the end he turned. I think if he slammed on the brakes to try and wait for Holmes, it would have seen the drivers behind coming to. As you can see, Doble right now, I think, getting it a little bit wrong, but he might be giving up the position here or just losing that time and trying to let Holmes catch back up. So it looks as though Doble is dropping, unless it's damage on the car, of course. What would you say, Alex? Do you think he's trying to just back himself up and give the place back?
I'm not sure. Racers are racers, and Mikey Doble, being a pro racer, would just think, well, let's just get it to the end now, even if he does admit defeat in that particular instant. Lee Holmes, to be fair, didn't drop too much. He dropped to 12th, but that's still a lot worse than where he was. You'll feel a little bit hard done by that, as Mikey Doble did have the inside, but not much of the inside. There's plenty of arguments for and against all of that. But yeah, certainly an unfortunate incident between the two main championship protagonists in the pro category. Shame to see that, but we'll see what happens post-race, of course, and we'll see what happens for the rest of this race. Less than 5 minutes to go. Our leader at the top, Wayne Douglas, 7 seconds clear, has actually extended that gap little by little over the last few laps over Nick Clibbons, who won't really mind so much as he's first in category still, and he's got quite a buffer to Adam Delmont a few seconds back. And Paul Scott, in a race of his own at the moment, just needs to keep his nose out of trouble. He has been doing very well this season, has Paul Scott. He's been first in the championship all the way through the season so far. That might change after tonight with the good results we've seen from Dave Whitehouse. But Paul Scott, he won't mind this. Good result in this race right here, first place right now. And he won't want to get involved in too many battles if the drivers from behind do catch him up.
Indeed, and I think he's tying himself to the back of Clibbons right now, just taking logic, do whatever Clibbons does in terms of lap time, and that's enabling him to stay in a very comfortable position. He's not got any pressure building from Adam Delmont behind. And speaking of Adam Delmont and company behind in that battle for his P4 overall and P2 in the Pro class, we're looking at Jamie Dory here as he makes his way out of 6 through 7, and we're just taking a quick look back at what happened only moments ago. And this was Lee Horne under braking. Now, he's had an incident. What's happened? Well, that's Aaron Thompson. And Lee Horne, I think, coming in too hard on the brakes and sending Aaron Thompson out into the gravel. But in the end, he did wait, to be fair, and that's the great respect shown. But I think it's one of those situations where a number of drivers have just got it wrong under braking here. And I do wonder if Star drivers are seeing a bit of brake fade here. We've seen the brake disc light up very, very regularly coming down into the downhill braking corner turn number 3. And I think some drivers just cooking the brakes a bit too hard as they now make their way towards the end of this race. We've got 2.5 minutes to go, and Jamie Dory, well, the Next Gen Racing Orange driver, will see that he has got Doble and Cockrell just ahead of him. Can he find a way back into that fight, or is it a bridge too far as they make their way up towards turn number 2? Well, Dory does seem to be falling back a little bit as it currently stands, but I think he might be waiting for Doble and Cockrell to kick off once again as they make their way into that braking zone. So go on, Alex.
It's not very easy to get the tyres past 20 minutes in these cars, so we'll probably see a lot of these drivers who push the car a little bit harder in the early part of the race. Their tyres will fade away at this point in the race. We might be seeing that from a few drivers, but a lot of other drivers might be thinking about the long-term goal here. You know, is it worth me going for that one extra position for the sake of one race here? But we are not seeing that thought from Mikey Doble here as he tries to make his way past Craig Cockrell here for 6th place. And we're just going back to that incident between Lee Horne and Aaron Thompson. The two came together in the previous race as well, so they can't seem to keep their hands off each other at the moment. Can Horne and Thompson, the two championship protagonists in the Pro-Am category coming into tonight. Whether that will change after tonight, it remains to be seen. But yeah, a lot going on championship protagonist-wise in these races so far tonight. We saw Holmes and Doble come together, as well as Horne and Thompson.
Oh, indeed, and I do think it might be one of those situations as well. Now that we're a couple of rounds in, it is one of those situations whereby you will see championship rivals really start to push one another to limits. Speaking of pushing to limits, I think Fairclough and Delmont there pushing it to limit what is defined as the track limits as they both went through and now comes the end of a lap. Both of them there deciding to go a little bit wider than normal coming through turn number 8 as they go on to the final lap. That white flag is now out, and as they go charging in towards turn number 1, we can see that Mikey Doble in the rear of the picture has got ahead and is now trying to chase these guys down. But it's a 2.5 second gap, and he's got Cockrell and Dory all over the back of him, and Dory now really latching on like a limpet mine there as they make their way charging up towards turn number 2 and trying to find a way to get past Cockrell and even take the fight to Dory, take the fight to Doble, I should say. But you can see already as they come roaring up towards turn number 2 once again, heavy into the braking zone. Will we see a swing to the inside from Dory? Well, he's made to look between the two drivers here as Doble covers it off very early and very smartly, but as they make their way out to 2, ooh, goodness me, there's contact between Cockrell and Dory there, and I think Dory just trying to come down the inside when they exit the corner, and Cockrell just seemingly having to have the same fault as they made their way out of the corner here, but not what we wanted to see right at the end.
No, and looking at this, you could see what Craig Cockrell was trying to do. He was trying to get off the curb, but also trying to follow the slipstream of Mikey Doble. But Jamie Dory's car was there, so it's a hard one to call, that one. One for the stewards after. I know we keep saying that, but another one for the stewards after. But without further ado, we've got the end of the race coming up. It's been a pretty boring race for Wayne Douglas, but he won't mind it at all. He will become the first non-pro category driver to win a race this season. This season so far, we have had Mikey Doble, Lee Holmes, Adam Delmont, Bobby Thompson, Deegan Fairclough and Pete Newman, and is now a new name in the winner's circle here in the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup. It is Wayne Douglas who will take the win here in the final race of the night in brilliant fashion, nearly 8 seconds clear of the pro category winner. Nick Clibbens comes through to finish 2nd overall and 1st in category, and on the line Deegan Fairclough gets past Paul Scott, who just about creeps it across the line for 1st in category. Not quite sure what he was doing there, but he takes 4th overall and 1st in category, and another winning category for himself. But what an interesting race we saw indeed. And the biggest mover of the field was Deegan Fairclough with 24 places gained to get himself into the top 3 on the final stretch there.
Well, indeed, and Fairclough really making every place count as he now takes back to the garage. But I think it was one of those situations as well where I think it's not quite all done. I think the stewards will have quite a bit of work to look through with regards to this race in particular. But a fantastic race, and indeed, I think a bit of an unknown for a lot of drivers getting used to the idea of the 25-minute race and having no pit stop. So it's relentless and having to manage the car all the way through, particularly those tyres, as you were saying, Alex, just wearing down after the opening 20 minutes and knowing when to push and when not to push. And I think we did see that tonight where a lot of drivers tried to hold off pushing too hard for at least the opening 5 minutes or the opening 10, but as soon as they reached that point, the gloves started to come off and the fights really kicked off, particularly in the second half with Mikey Doble trying to snipe his way through, and in the end only finishing P4 in class, P6 overall. Well, I say only, coming from the back of the field.
Absolutely, and we do have the results here for the final race of the night. Wayne Douglas takes the win, but again, the first non-pro category winner of the season. Nick Clibbens in 2nd with Deegan Fairclough in 3rd position. In 4th place, Mikey Doble with Tom Delaney in 5th place. And I believe there has been a change in the results here. Paul Scott might have been trying to serve a slow down penalty as he ends up far down the order. So that relinquishes the win in the AM category over to Tom Delaney in 5th place overall there. So another win to Tom, his 4th of the season in category. Callum Jenkins takes 6th place from pole on the grid. at the start of this race with Lee Holmes in 7th place. A good recovery after the incident he had earlier on in the race. Jamie Dory 8th, followed by Craig Cockrell in 9th, with Liam Silkstone rounding off the top 10. In 11th place, David to Whitehouse, who couldn't make it 3 from 3. It was a 2nd place for him in the end in this race, but 11th overall. Glenn Humberston in 12th place, followed by Ollie Peters, who did not have a very good night, but looking to bounce back next week, in 2 weeks' time, I'm sure. Dustin Lamb 14th with Lee Horne, a quiet night for him, but an instant-packed night as well for Lee Horne. He's 15th. Penalty for Paul Scott puts him in 16th, with Adam Delmont in 17th place. Nigel Stock takes 18th from Aaron Thompson, and Adam Morgan, who had the incident earlier on, he takes 20th from Sam Smith, Mark Oliver, Ben Bennyworth, Mark Arrowsmith, Keith Dempsey, Lewis Kent, and George Watson in 27th. But your category winners in this race were Wayne Douglas, Nick Clibbons, and Tom Delaney. What a nights of racing that was, and something we haven't quite done yet. We normally do it in the towards the end of race 3 there, Paul. But who was your driver of the day tonight?
Oh, it's a very difficult one to pick. I think there were plenty of drivers there who put in great performances over the course of the races. But I think today, my driver of the day is an AM driver who really showed, I think, a great level of maturity over the course of all 3 races, particularly in a race number 2. And that is David Whitehouse. I think smart driving throughout. It wasn't a perfect night for Whitehouse. Indeed, for no driver was it perfect tonight. But Whitehouse really showed that as an AM driver, sometimes it's about trying to drive as smart as possible and just simply steer clear of trouble, and that's what he did, particularly in race 2 and also race 3, and a great set of results on the board for him.
I agree, totally agree. So our driver of the day for today is Mr. Di Whitehouse, as I like to call him. So congratulations, Di, for achieving the award that gets you nothing extra, but it's a nice informal award to be given. So well done to Mr. Whitehouse, and well done to our winners tonight, Mikey Doble in race 1. In race 2, Lee Holmes, and in race 3, Wayne Douglas. But let's see if we've got any interviews in the pending for us. We do have Mikey Doble in the waiting room for us. So we'll bring in I will try and bring in our race 1 winner, but I can't seem to drag him into the comms box. Caught his coat on something, maybe trying to get into the comms box. But see if Paul can bring him in here. But our race 1 winner, quite a night for Mikey Doble, has got to be said. 16 places gained in to get himself to 6th place, and actually he's just stepped out of the interview waiting room. Might have heard me talking about him then, but no interview for the time being from Mikey Doble. But a good night for him indeed, and he'll certainly maintain his championship lead. Can he be stopped, Paul?
It'll be a big question. I'm just going to try and get him into an interview room. If you give me a brief moment, I'll move us all into a room where I think we can all convene and we can hear from Mikey Doble. So just give me... In fact, let's go to him. That might be the easier approach here.
Certainly. So, change of location, and we'll come to you, Mikey. Mikey, a race 1 win and a pretty decent night from yourself, certainly hanging on to the championship lead there. How was the night from your perspective?
Well, it's some crazy racing out there all night long, to be honest. I mean, it's so hard to break away around here of the slipstream, and I think in practice the slipstream was worth up to anything from a second. So really, I mean, I shouldn't imagine there's too many drivers out there that are more than a second off of the pace on raw pace, so it just keeps everyone together. So there's some crazy moves, some sharp hairpins that you can lunge up the inside at. So just staying out of trouble, really, trying to protect the championship lead.
Absolutely, and that must be the one thing that's hot on your minds right now. I mean, you're no stranger to winning championships, you're no stranger to defending championships, but with the different grid here, is it certainly a tougher challenge, or just a different challenge?
No, it's certainly tougher. I mean, if you're at the front of the championship and you can qualify near the front, you've got to try and make the most of the of race 1 every night, because that's your only chance to get a result on raw pace. And then after that, there's always a little bit of luck involved, and trying to take your time and come through the pack. You know, this championship's designed to not let the same people win every single race. Not that I would, but there'd probably be less of a chance for it'd be a select 4 or 5 that would win if it was on qualifying. But with this format, it's out there that it's anyone's game.
Certainly is, certainly is. So 3 rounds gone so far, and I believe you've picked up 2 wins for yourself. Next up is Montreal. Not a track that's highly conventional with MX-5 racing, but what do you make of the circuit of Gilles Villeneuve? Is it one you're looking forward to?
I think it's going to be a similar strategy tonight, to be honest. The staying out of trouble. I mean, there's a lot of long straights there, heavy braking zones. It's going to be about avoiding trouble. I mean, the walls are very close around there, so any crashes that might have otherwise filtered off the track tonight are going to funnel straight back on the track in a couple of weeks. So, yeah, there could be the odd roadblock here and there, but it's going to be all about not being greedy and just picking up the points and taking advantage of other people's messes, I think, and try and qualify and make the most of race 1 again.
Certainly is, and you actually had a little bit of drama in race 2. What initially went through your mind when you did get turned around in race 2? Was it just talk us through what you were going through in that moment and for the rest of the race?
Well, even though it wasn't my fault, I was thinking in my head it was my fault because I was too cautious into that corner, trying not to stuff it into the back of anyone in front. So I left probably half a car's length too much gap to be on the safe side, and whoever it was behind me, I didn't really watch the replay, just nicked my back bumper, and probably wasn't even anything he did on purpose or anything, just carrying more speed in, trying to outbrake people to his left, and just caught the back of me. And my next thought was to try and spin safely and get out of everyone's way and get going again without losing the draft. And after a couple of laps to catch back up the slipstream again, it was just a case of keeping the momentum up and trying to come straight back through the pack without any more incidents. And I think after that the race went pretty well, and the gaps opened up for me and I never really backed out, so the momentum was always there to come back through.
It was a great comeback, and a good night's racing for yourself. But before we let you go, Mikey, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to? Sponsors, friends, family, fans?
Right, let me think. I don't want to upset anyone by not saying them, so I've got my dad, my mum, my brothers downstairs watching, and both my grandparents, I think, sitting in their various households. I think that's about it. And another shout out to you guys for amazing commentary as usual.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mikey.
Shouting from my couch as well. Yeah, go for it.
I've got to ask, Mikey, one question. One thing we noticed time and time again over all 3 races, you just seem to have this knack of putting your car on the inside of corners, typically very safely. Okay, there was the little scrape in race number 3 at turn number 3. In races 1 and 2 in particular, even when you're in those 3 wide moments, you always seem to find a way to just put your car on the inside. How do you do it? What's going through your mind under braking? Are you sort of, right, the inside's over there, I've got to be there as soon as possible? What's the secret?
I guess it's kind of a bit of a game of chess, or you're always thinking ahead, so to get on the inside on whatever straight you're on has been manufactured 2 or 3 corners before, so you just need to make sure that you know that there's 2 or 3 places on that track that you must be on the inside, and if you're on the inside you can't really do a lot wrong, and you've got to make sure leading up to those corners that your car's in the right place, and you've got to send them the long way round. You've got the white line on the right hand side of the track can be your best friend, and just keep your right hand tyres on that, and they shouldn't be able to go anywhere. I think 3 wide in race 1 around the outside. I mean, they've got the gap there, but it's never going to work. There was a closing gap on the outside, and I'm on the inside, so it's just putting just thinking ahead really to put your car in the right place.
Oh, definitely makes sense, and very smart driving from yourself throughout, and brilliant driving the end. And well, we look forward to seeing how you get on at Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve in 2 weeks' time when we return from the Christmas break. But brilliant performance from yourself tonight.
Thank you very much. Hopefully the grids will still be strong and everyone can kiss and make up after tonight's racing, because it's going to need to be a lot of that. So thanks again, guys, and have a good Christmas.
You too, Mikey. Thank you for giving us great entertainment. We'll see you next time. There we go. Mikey Doble, our race 1 winner, and definitely our championship leader after tonight, even still. Quite a strong night from Mikey there. But Paul, bit of a roundup of tonight.
Well, I think the Red Bull Ring presented a different challenge for our drivers. It's all about mastering the art of slipstream on the straights and maintaining the momentum through the corners. And in the end, I think we saw a first for a number of reasons. We saw a first in terms of multiple instances of free wide or more going into multiple heavy braking zones. We saw first in terms of Wayne Douglas making series history by being our first non-pro class driver to take an overall win, and it was in the longest of the 3 races. You wouldn't normally expect that perhaps, but he was able to pull it off. And indeed we saw a first in terms of some fantastic drivers, some drivers who we've yet to see take wins within their class. Indeed, the Red Bull Ring being a first to everything, and I wonder what the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve will present to us in 2 weeks time after the Christmas break. But a number of drivers here I think will be having an early Christmas present in terms of their results today, and some drivers will be feeling like Grinches and hoping to take those results away come round number 4 in 2 weeks time.
Oh, you're good, Paul. Brilliant. But yes, the next round indeed on the tip of our tongues there. In 2 weeks from today, it will be round 4 of the championship to see us into the second quarter of the season. On the 3rd of January, we'll be back on Crest Autosport TV on YouTube and Twitch, and Next Gen Racing on Facebook. For the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, as we mentioned with Mikey Doble just a moment ago, quite a narrow, twisty circuit, but with a few long straights here and there. It's going to be a very challenging track for the drivers, but entertaining for us viewers and commentators. So do join us in 2 weeks' time from now to see that round take place. But for now, from the Red Bull Ring, I've been Alex Everett of Crest Autosport and Paul Walsh of TX141 alongside me. This has been round 3 of the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. In the meantime, have a great Christmas and a Happy New Year. We'll see you in 2022. Good night.